Chapter 361. C363 New Year's Eve. I was the one who was abrupt. Upon seeing this, Zhang Qingzeng apologized and quickly changed the subject. By the way, that bull demon has pointed its finger at Xuantian Holy Land, which is the strongest human force in the central region, and among them is the mysterious Senior Yi. Who do you think is better among these two? Recently, Niu Badian's threat to Xuantian Holy Land has become the center of attention in the central region. Everyone wants to know how Senior Yi, who is said to be so miraculous, should deal with Niu Badian, who is in the realm of the immortal emperor. If Xuantian Holy Land really sends people to seek peace, then it will be clear who is stronger and who is weaker. From now on, the entire central territory will be respected by the demon clan. This is a scene that none of them, as humans, want to see. Hear the words. A flash of light flashed in the eyes of Qinglian Sword Immortal, and after pondering for a long time, he said, "When I entered the Kunlun world, I knew many immortal emperors, but I have never heard of an immortal emperor with the surname Yi. As for many of you, you are guessing, his original identity was most likely that of an immortal, but I always remained skeptical about this. At that time, he was at the top level of the immortal emperor realm. Because his reputation was so famous, many powerful people wanted to make friends with him, so he basically said hello to the immortal emperors of the same realm, and his network of contacts was quite wide. In addition, there were even several immortal-level giants who personally extended an olive branch to him and wanted to recruit him into their ranks. Until today, Qinglian Sword Immortal can recall the feeling of meeting a powerful immortal master, and fully understands the terrifying gap between the two. He did not want to believe that a giant of immortality who had reached that level would give up the opportunity to go to the immortal world, and instead choose to stay in the downtrodden Kunlun world, enduring the pain of regression in cultivation and lowering his status to compete with their group of monks. Grab the fairy fate. It's like a wealthy businessman who lives a luxurious life, but has to go to a poor and remote village to dig food in the fields with a group of untouchables, eat chaffy vegetables, and gnaw on nests. Woe to! Isn't this kind of behavior just looking for punishment? Therefore, Qinglian Sword Immortal expressed deep doubts about the statement about Senior Yi's identity. He felt that the worst outcome would be for Xuantian Holy Land to send someone to actively seek peace, and the mysterious Senior Yi would be beaten back to his original form with a stick, and his prestige would be lost. Seeing that the old man in green shirt was not optimistic about Senior Yi, Zhang Qingzeng's heart suddenly sank to the bottom. Fortunately, he still had strong expectations, hoping that Senior Yi could represent the human monks and suppress Niu Badian's arrogance. It seems that this is just wishful thinking. Hey, now that things have come to a point, we can only take one step at a time. Zhang Qingzeng shook his head and sighed, picked up the teacup and took a sip. Although the tea was rich in fragrance, at this moment he only felt extremely bitter and had no sense of elegance. Don't worry, if that monster cow continues to act recklessly, I will prepare for the worst and bring peace to our human race. Qinglian Sword Immortal's tone was very calm, and his old voice contained a sense of determination. In the deepened vicissitudes of his eyes, a brilliant sword-shaped light flashed. That was clearly a heavenly sword intent. This former great sword immortal, even if his cultivation level has seriously deteriorated, he still has the courage to risk his life and point his sword at the immortal emperor. Looking at the white-haired, weather-beaten old man in blue shirt, Zhang Qingzeng couldn't help but feel a sore nose. He stood up and bowed his hands, his voice trembling slightly. Here, on behalf of all fellow Taoists, I would like to thank the seniors. Soon, the deadline has passed. Faced with Niu Badian's shouting, Xuantian Holy Land had no response at all. This made countless nervous monks feel unbelievable. What's going on? Why don't you make a sound? What's going on? Why can't I understand? Some monks were confused by Xuantian Holy Land's actions. Haha, I understand. Xuantian Holy Land didn't take the threat of the demonic cow seriously at all, so it didn't even respond at all. Someone clapped their hands and shouted excitedly. Once this statement was issued, it quickly spread throughout the central region. Only then did everyone suddenly realize it, and deep admiration emerged in their hearts. Xuantian Holy Land can have such confidence, obviously it has the support of Senior Yi, and its attitude is the attitude of Senior Yi. The reason why I chose to ignore it was because Niu Badian was not in the eyes of Senior Yi from the beginning to the end. This is outright contempt. Nothing was said, but everything was said. I don't want to talk to you at all. Because you are completely unqualified. Just as the outside world was talking about it. Taishuan Prefecture is decorated with lanterns and festive red lanterns everywhere. People coming and going. If they are familiar with each other, they will clasp their fists in congratulations when they meet, and say with a smile on their faces, Happy New Year! According to the almanac of the Taishuan Prefecture cultivation world, every 100 years is a cycle, which is called the New Year. On this day, monks will visit each other to pay New Year greetings, give gifts prepared by themselves, and say some blessings for good luck and everlasting prosperity. Xuantian Holy Land. It's a lively scene inside. Many disciples are busy arranging and decorating everything for the new year. Even the elders who are usually stoic and have a straight face will clasp their fists on this special day and send New Year blessings with a smile. Their faces were filled with joyful smiles, and no matter who they were, they looked beaming. Happy New Year, Happy New Year! Lin Dushou, as the son of the Holy Spirit, did not put on airs on this day. Facing the disciples and elders coming and going, he would smile and clasp his fists to send blessings. This is etiquette. Hi, Brother Lin, I'm here. A young man with half black and half white hair and a bit of a sly smile came towards Lin Dushou and waved to say hello. Taishuanzhou celebrates the New Year, and Xuantian Holy Land, as a local force, will naturally make lively preparations. Although Ji Bashao is not a cultivator from Taishuanzhou, he also received an invitation from Lin Dushou this time to come to participate in the New Year's Eve ceremony of Xuantian Holy Land. Brother Ji, Happy New Year! Lin Dushou clasped his fists and smiled. Hello, I'm fine, everyone is fine. Ji Bashao walked with the wind and said with a smile on his face. When he came to the front, Ji Bashao suddenly looked around alertly, and then lowered his voice to Lin Dushou. Brother Lin, the outside world is paying close attention to your affairs with the 10,000 Monsters Alliance. I just want to ask, what is Senior Yi's attitude towards the leader Niu? This time he came here specially. On the one hand, he was invited to participate in the New Year's Eve ceremony, and on the other hand, he wanted to take this opportunity to test the truth and understand the real internal information. After all, if his biggest backer fell, he would really be unable to move forward in the future. During this period, Ji Bashao also heard about how powerful the leader of the 10,000 Monsters Alliance was. He was an ancient creature that was countless times more powerful than the high-ranking immortal king. This scared him enough, thinking that Yi Junlin might be in danger. He was worried during this period. Now he saw the opportunity and hurried over to find out. Lin Dushou seemed to have expected his friend to ask, and smiled and waved his hand. We are too busy with the New Year's Eve recently, so we don't bother to deal with that guy. According to Senior Yi's intention, let's talk about it after the New Year. Hearing this tone of indifference, Ji Bashao's eyes suddenly lit up, and he couldn't help but get excited. It seems that, as the rumors say, Senior Yi doesn't take the leader of the 10,000 Demons Alliance seriously at all. In this case, he has nothing to worry about. Brother Lin, where is my elder brother? Your elder brother is with Senior Yi, I'll take you there. Okay, in the attic. Yi Junlin put his hands behind his back, looked at the lively scene in front of him through the railing, and heard the sound of fireworks and firecrackers in his ears. His eyes revealed a strong sense of nostalgia, and said with emotion, This festive atmosphere reminds me of the time when I was in my hometown. As the saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Because he stayed in Taishuanzhou, the time was more accurate, and he could also experience the festive atmosphere of the New Year here. Unexpectedly, the New Year atmosphere in Xuantian Holy Land was so strong that it reminded him of the New Year in Blue Star. Hong Chenny behind him heard it and whispered softly, I really don't know what kind of place Master's hometown is. For some reason, he always felt that the back of the young man seemed a little lonely and desolate, as if he was out of tune with this world. Is it an illusion? Take it and read it. Hearing this, Li Wuji skillfully took out a blue book from his arms. What do you mean? Hong Chenny frowned, not knowing what the other party meant. You can find the answer in the book. Li Wuji said seriously. Hong Chenny took the blue book doubtfully, and saw the words, Legend of Senior Yi, on the cover. Suddenly, his forehead was full of black lines, and he felt very speechless. This guy is hopeless. Hong Chenny said nothing and stuffed the blue book back, which made Li Wuji confused. I showed it to you out of kindness, but you are not happy. Did you know that this book is a limited edition in the East region? Just then, a familiar voice came from behind, Brother. I'm here to wish you a Happy New Year. Ji Bashao walked over quickly, clasped his fists and said with a smile, I wish you better swordsmanship and reach the peak of swordsmanship soon. As soon as these words came out, Li Wuji was very happy. Li Wuji patted Ji Bashao's shoulder and laughed happily, okay, then I'll lend you my good words. Ji Bashao looked at Hong Chenny again and said loudly, I wish you good luck in the new year, a bright future, and your followers spread all over the world. Hong Chenny didn't want to pay attention to this slick young man, but after hearing this, the cold look on his face loosened a little, and a rare smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He nodded, thank you for your good words. Hee. Ji Baxiao scratched his head. The latest, emotional intelligence, is really not in vain. Next, he looked at the tall figure, unable to contain his excitement, and hurriedly strode over, clasping his fists to congratulate Yi Junlin. I wish Senior Yi good luck, abundance every year, prosperity, good fortune, 5 blessings, constant smiles, great luck, success in everything, step-by-step promotion, rolling wealth, smooth sailing, peace every year, joy, spring in harmony. Yi Junlin, Chapter 362. C364 Wonderful Talent Show. When Ji Baxiao said a series of blessings, Yi Junlin was almost stunned. Good guy, you have a great vocabulary, right? Finally, I would like to wish Senior Yi that the road will be evergreen and live forever. After Ji Baxiao finished speaking, he breathed a sigh of relief. One can imagine that this was also a big challenge for him. Everyone looked strange. Brother Ji, you are really, Lin Dushou smiled bitterly, once again refreshing his understanding of this longtime friend. Li Wuji was amused and gave a thumbs up. Second brother, you are such a fucking talent. Thank you, thank you. Ji Baxiao's tone was slightly modest, but there was a look of pride on his face that could not be concealed. Okay, I have received your blessings, thank you for your kind words. Yi Junlin said angrily. This kid is really a living treasure. Everyone, we are all here. Gubuli wore a Xuanwang Taoist robe, put his hands into his cuffs, and walked in with a smile on his face, looking like a dog. This is, Ji Baxiao noticed the aura on the other person's body and said movedly. This is Senior Go, a member of the Tengu clan from ancient times. He is now the guest elder of our Xuantian Holy Land. Lin Dushou introduced. Hey, hello, little guy. Gubuli said with a smile. For some reason, when he saw Ji Baxiao, he always felt that he was a kindred spirit to some extent, and felt very cordial. Licking, are you a dog-licking family? Ji Baxiao almost suspected that his ears had misheard, and looked the old man up and down again. It turns out that he is an old licker. Gubuli, this young man, his ears are not working well at a young age, and his brain is also not working well. They are the Tengu clan, not the dog-licking clan. You can call me a dog, but you can never call me a dog licker. This is a matter of principle. Actually, Xiao Ji was right. You were indeed Empress Fuyao's licking dog before. Yi Junlin thought for a while and said seriously. Gubuli, fellow Taoist Yi, you are embarrassing me by saying this. By the way, what kind of programs are arranged in the Holy Land during this Chinese New Year? For example, cross-talk, skits, singing, dancing and cotton playing. Yi Junlin's expression moved slightly and he asked curiously. Lin Dushou's face was solemn. Don't worry, Senior Yi, there was no such thing before, but as long as it is your request, Xuantian Holy Land will fully cooperate. In the past few days, the Holy Lord has personally handled the matter and ensured that every program will be exciting. Not bad. Yi Junlin nodded. Ji Baxiao alerted himself and raised his hand. Everyone, I also have a talent show. You. Everyone looked at him with doubts in their eyes. Li Wuji seemed to think of something, and said with an unnatural expression. Second brother, although your courage is commendable, on this special day, it is against the customs of you to perform that way in front of everyone. Ah. Brother Ji, put away your magical powers. Don't cause trouble. Lin Dushou also thought of what happened last time. Her face changed instantly, and she quickly tried to dissuade him. After all, Ji Baxiao's newly improved yin-yang magic is still vivid in their minds and unforgettable. If such a weird magical power were to be used in Xuantian Holy Land, many disciples and elders would be deeply involved, and it would definitely cause chaos on the scene. What do you mean? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. Could it be that there was something new that he didn't know about? Master, the thing is like this, the last time I went to Yin-Yang Holy Land, Li Wuji looked a little embarrassed and explained in detail. Ouch. When he learned what happened, Yi Junlin looked at Ji Baxiao in surprise, as if he was seeing a rare treasure. This ability is great, it can relieve boredom when you are bored. If you want to watch a short movie in the future, why bother? Direct 3D audio and video surround, giving you the feeling of flying. Ahem, I can understand your desire to show off your talents, but this is not the right time to watch this during the Chinese New Year. Yi Junlin pretended to cough a few times and said seriously. Ah this. Ji Baxiao took 2 steps back as if struck by a bolt from the blue. He was in a very depressed mood and felt that his great talents had nowhere to be used. He said helplessly, "In this case, then I have nothing to perform." Suddenly, he was tapped on the shoulder. Ji Bashao turned around and saw Gubuli looking at him with a smile, not to mention how obscene that smile was. "Old licking dog, what do you want to do?" Ji Bashao was wary, couldn't help but clamp his legs together, and raised his hips crazily. "Young man, although you can't perform in front of the public, you can come to me when you are free. I am still very interested in your special talents. We have the same goals." Gubuli smiled. To know, the void mirror he used to spy on fairies taking a bath had been broken, and his favorite entertainment channel was no longer available. This made him feel like something was missing during this period. Now, when he learned that Ji Bashao's interpretation of the yin-yang diagram can directly make people immerse themselves in the scene and watch countless passionate spring scenes, Gubuli instantly became very interested. "Who knows?" Ji Bashao looked disgusted. "Do you still need this for your status? Why don't you just find a few dogs to show you? How simple." He felt that using the yin-yang chart on Gubuli was simply overkill. Gubuli stared at Di Liu Liu with titanium alloy dog eyes and said with excitement, "What are you talking about? I have the same taste as you humans." Ji Bashao was stunned, and then quickly admitted his mistake. Sorry, I misunderstood. It turned out that we are really like-minded." At this time, Kang Langjun shouted from downstairs, "Everyone, come down quickly, the show is about to start." Walk. Yi Junlin and the others left the attic and headed towards their destination. In the open square, the crowd was so dense that one couldn't even see the edge. First of all, regarding this annual meeting, as the Holy Master of Xuantian Holy Land, I have the following 3 points to say. Zhang Tianming has a majestic figure and a majestic face. He has the aura of a man who has been in power for a long time. He stands in the center of the stage with his hands behind his back and is about to deliver an important speech. The surrounding disciples and elders all looked depressed, knowing that this was an essential part of every annual meeting. Sometimes when the interest arises, I will talk non-stop, saying it is 3 o'clock, but in fact the flood is overwhelming. But this time, with Yi Junlin here, it is destined to be a unique annual meeting. Xiao Zhang, stop beeping, come down quickly, we are still waiting to watch the show. Yi Junlin shouted impatiently after taking his seat. What he hates most is this kind of leadership speech. What a waste of time. When he was studying in his previous life, he wanted to say to the leaders on the stage countless times, "If you don't say a few words, you will die, right?" Therefore, Yi Junlin hates this kind of leadership speech and will resolutely put an end to this behavior as long as he is around. Well, Zhang Tianming was choked instantly, his expression extremely embarrassed. You know, he prepared hundreds of pages of speeches for this annual meeting. Now, it's all useless. What a pity. Of course, Zhang Tianming did not dare to show any dissatisfaction, but said with an apologetic smile, "Senior Yi, I will come down right away." Then he left the center of the stage in despair, his majestic and domineering look just now gone. Seeing this scene, the monks felt extremely happy, and their eyes looking at Yi Junlin were full of awe and gratitude. "The Supreme Holy Lord, you are wise." Soon, round after round of shows began to take place. As for the props used, they were all provided by Kang Langjun for free. He used his forgery ability to have all kinds of artifacts, no matter what style, to meet the needs of all actors. In terms of visual experience, it brings good effects to everyone. It's quite realistic. On stage, a handsome young man was kicked to the ground, with blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. Several men sneered again and again. The tall man at the head crossed his arms and said arrogantly, "Boy, I advise you to leave sooner, otherwise you will have a hard time in the future." The young man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, gritted his teeth and said, "Why? You are just a trash with a useless spirit. A loser like you still has the nerve to date sooner. Just take a piss and look in the mirror. Are you worthy? HMPH, 30 years in the east of Hedong and 30 years in west of Hexi, don't bully young people into poverty. I swear, I will make you regret it one day." In the first seat, Yi Junlin looked strange. Let's not talk about singing, dancing, playing music, etc. The arrangement of this sketch is quite interesting. The plot is either about the struggles of losers, or about pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger, or about a domineering fairy king falling in love with me. Senior Yi, the Holy Lord just asked me to ask you, are you satisfied with these programs? Lin Dushou said. Yi Junlin said, "It's okay, it's a bit interesting." That's good. Lin Dushou was relieved and showed a relaxed smile. As each program ended, the audience burst into thunderous applause, cheers and cheers. At this time, in the center of the stage, stood a man with blue hair hanging down around his waist, a slender figure and a handsome face. The blue-haired man was holding a golden trident, his eyes were red, tears were falling down his face, and he was speaking his lines emotionally. Xiao Wu, we are finally going to be together again. In front of her, there lay a woman in a pink skirt with her eyes closed and rabbit ears. After saying that, the blue-haired man took a deep breath and raised the golden trident in his hand. A bright red halo appeared behind him, and his long blue hair was flying in the wind. The blue-haired man endured the pain and shouted in a voice that was almost a roar. Resurrection, my beloved. The voice contained firmness and unforgettable true feelings, which made countless female disciples' eyes wet and shed 2 lines of moved tears. Haha, Yi Junlin touched his nose, feeling that such forced and sensational lines were awkward. Just when the emotions in the audience reached their climax, a thunderous cow cry suddenly came from the sky, resounding over Taishuan Prefecture. Moo, this thick and dull cow cry contained a terrifying anger. Countless monks in Taishuan Prefecture were startled. The joyful festive atmosphere was instantly broken, and the terrifying atmosphere spread to every corner of the place like a vast ocean. Fuck, the blue-haired man couldn't even hold the fork steady and fell to the ground in fright. And the rabbit-eared girl who had been pretending to be dead just now was so frightened that she opened her eyes and screamed repeatedly. Suddenly, the audience was in chaos. What's going on? Everyone asked in surprise. This aura, could it be? Guguli's face changed slightly, and he immediately knew who it was. In the distant horizon, a huge demonic wind swept over, and a bull-headed figure with a strong sense of oppression quickly broke into the Xuantian Holy Land, and all the defensive formations were destroyed in an instant and lost their function. Niu Badian's face was full of rage, with scorching air waves from his nostrils, a bright fairy wheel behind him, and his whole body was shrouded in a thick energy mist. His eyes were as bright as the sun, so bright. The dull voice sounded like a huge bell, shaking the entire Xuantian Holy Land. The leader of the 10,000 Demons Alliance is here. Yi, come out quickly and confess your sins. Chapter 363. C-365 Minotaur is confused. There is no doubt that Niu Badian came with the attitude of asking for punishment. He was very annoyed by being isolated by the ancient demon clan, so he turned his spearhead to Xuantian Holy Land, hoping to show his military power and re-establish his prestige. His idea was very simple, that is, to force Xuantian Holy Land to express its attitude, whether to choose to surrender or to fight against him. If it is the former, it can save a lot of effort. If it is the latter, it just fits his intention. After all, Niu Badian has absolute confidence in suppressing the so-called senior Yi. He always believes that he is invincible at present, and he can definitely beat all the opponents in the central region and sweep away all the disobedience. Who knows that the deadline has passed, and Xuantian Holy Land has not expressed its attitude, and even ignored him, as if ignoring him is air. Listening to the discussions in the central region, all kinds of sarcasm contained, Niu Badian's self-esteem suffered an unprecedented blow. He was like a clown jumping up and down, frantically trying to show his presence, but no one wanted to pay attention to him at all. In the end, Niu Badian couldn't bear it anymore, and with a heart full of anger and frustration, he came to settle the score. As you can imagine, cold violence is really terrible. Even a cow can't stand it. Burning with anger, Niu Badian vowed to save his lost face. The first thing he had to do was to drag that senior Yi out and beat him up to vent his hatred. At this time, Niu Badian, who broke into Xuantian Holy Land, saw the lively and joyous scene. His eyes were red and bloody, his nostrils sprayed hot air, and he felt humiliated in his heart. Damn it, I said why you ignored me before, it turns out you were busy watching the show here. Have you ever considered my feelings, you selfish human race? Seeing Niu Badian with an angry face and a sense of oppression, countless disciples and elders were frightened and trembled like quails. There was no way, Niu Badian, who was in the realm of a mortal emperor, was so arrogant and fierce. Oh my god, this demon bull is so scary. Ji Baxiao was so scared that he trembled all over, his eyes were full of fear. Lin Dusho's heart trembled wildly, as if he thought of something, and said in a strong and calm voice, "Don't panic, we have Senior Yi." Just when the atmosphere was depressing and dull, a playful voice sounded. Hey, Minotaur! Yi Junlin flashed and came to the front of Niu Badian, with his hands behind his back, looking at him from a distance. He looked up and down at the other party with burning eyes, as if he was looking at a fresh and delicious animal. Niu Badian stared at the young man and said uncertainly, "You are the Senior Yi they are talking about?" "Yes, I am Yi Junlin." Yi Junlin smiled, and it seemed that after seeing Niu Badian, his mood became better. Ha ha ha, Niu Badian was stunned at first, then raised his head and laughed loudly. The loud laughter resounded through the sky, containing a strong sense of contempt and ridicule. When he saw Yi Junlin, he sensed the other party's true cultivation. Although he was the ninth heaven of the immortal king, it was not enough to compare with the immortal emperor. What's more, he was not an ordinary immortal emperor, but a Tianyu clan strongman with a cultivation of the third heaven of the immortal emperor, 4 turns of the immortal wheel, and pure blood. Isn't it easy to beat a human immortal king? Therefore, Niu Badian decided to trample Yi Junlin under his feet and humiliate him severely, and then put an iron chain around his neck and parade him through the streets like dragging an animal, so that all the cultivators in the central region could see that this so-called senior Yi was just like that. I believe that after this incident, no revived person will dare to disobey him. Seeing Niu Badian laughing wildly, Yi Junlin said in amazement, he is dying and still so happy, he is really a stupid cow. Hearing this, the laughter stopped abruptly. Niu Badian almost suspected that he had heard it wrong, and questioned with his copper bell-sized cow eyes. You, what did you say to me? A human immortal king dared to say that he was a stupid cow to his face. Was it intentional or accidental? Hey, he can't even understand what I said, he is really a stupid cow. Yi Junlin shook his head and sighed. Hey. Everyone couldn't help laughing and tried to hold back their laughter. As long as this young man is here, he feels at ease. It seems that no matter how tense and oppressive the atmosphere is, it can be resolved. Looking for death, Niu Badian was furious and took a step forward. His iron fist as big as a sandbag gathered endless power, and then a mighty demonic wind blew up, and the majestic and vast fist print disappeared in an instant. Boom! The terrifying sense of oppression came like a mountain, making it difficult for countless people to breathe. Not good, that's the immortal emperor. Can Senior Yi at this stage stop it? Kanglang Jun was a little worried. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Yi can handle it. Go Buli said slowly. He knew how terrifying Yi Junlin's strength was. Even at the level of immortal king, he could beat most immortal emperors. I've been waiting for now. Yi Junlin's eyes flickered, and a subtle arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. I thought that he would be passively promoted to the level of immortal emperor after meeting Long Aotian, but I didn't expect that plans couldn't keep up with changes, and Niu Badian came to deliver experience packs in person. It's Chinese New Year, how thoughtful. Little human immortal king, watch how I, the leader of the alliance, will crush you with one punch. Niu Badian was furious, his fist was filled with the shadow of a huge barbarian bull, and he wanted to tear Yi Junlin, who was as small as an ant, into pieces. Ding, the host is detected to be attacked by an enemy of the third level of the immortal emperor. Now the passive effect of getting stronger when facing a strong enemy is triggered, and the cultivation of the fourth level of the immortal emperor is obtained. Closing square bracket. In his mind, the system prompt sounded. Swish. In an instant. Yi Junlin's eyes were golden and bright, like a noble god, his skin was shining with the brilliance of white jade, and his muscles and bones were like fairy jade. Behind him, a sacred golden halo emerged, exuding a brilliant and immortal breath, revealing the vicissitudes of time. This is the immortal wheel, the most important symbol of the immortal emperor. This means that Yi Junlin has broken through to the realm of the real immortal emperor. Boom! The terrifying might as vast as the sea rushed over, causing Niu Badian's face to change drastically in an instant, his anger was extinguished, and his whole body was cold to the bone. A pair of bull eyes almost popped out, full of deep disbelief, and he lost his voice and said, how come you are also an immortal emperor? Guess. Yi Junlin smiled playfully, and in the blink of an eye, he shattered the surging fist print with his sleeves. Bang! A dull explosion sounded, mixed with a few painful groans. Niu Badian retreated more than 10 feet, his whole arm was numb and painful, blood flowed down his arm, and he looked at it in disbelief. As a minotaur, he was stunned. Just like the shocked expression when he found out that he was cheated on. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail. 300 times 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 times 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 364. C366 Niu Badian. Happy New Year to you. Why is this human not only at the level of immortal emperor, but also one level higher than him? Isn't this unreasonable? Niu Badian's heart was in turmoil. He had originally wanted to break through the Immortal Emperor first and be the first to take the lead, but it turned out that the other person had already reached the Immortal Emperor level and was waiting to see him laugh. No wonder this guy was so reckless in the face of his verbal threats before. He recovered his cultivation so quickly. Could it be that, as the rumors said, the other party was once a great figure at the level of Immortal Venerable? The more Niu Badian thought about it, the more scared he became. Beads of sweat overflowed from his forehead, and he was sweating profusely. Although Yi Junlin did not have a trace of the unique aura of a resurrected person, if he had been active in the world for a long time, this special aura would slowly be wiped out. Therefore, Niu Badian would not suspect Yi Junlin's identity from this point. Instead, after experiencing the shock just now, he was more convinced of the other party's origin. After all, how long has it been since the laws of heaven and earth relaxed restrictions? You know, the reason why he was able to recover to the Immortal Emperor realm was largely because of a trick. If it weren't for the pair of sheep horns of the old immortal Qingyang, he would not have been so far ahead and stood out this time. And this human's cultivation, without any external force, recovered faster than him. If he said that he didn't have a strong foundation to rely on, he would never believe it even if he was beaten to death. It turns out that Senior Yi has already been an immortal emperor. It's a pity that we were still kept in the dark. Kang Jun was stunned, and then a bitter smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Go Buli stared at the dog eyes, very surprised at the situation in front of him. According to his idea, even if Yi Junlin was in the realm of Immortal King, he would not be afraid of fighting against creatures of the realm of Niu Badian. But he really didn't expect that Yi Junlin gave him a big surprise. He quietly cultivated to the 4th level of the Immortal Emperor. This speed is simply exaggerated. It's worthy of being a favored person of the heavenly Tao, Go Buli sighed secretly. At this time, Yi Junlin, whose cultivation level had skyrocketed, felt the changes in his body that had transformed him, and he felt that he was quite good. He looked at the dumbfounded Niu Badian and said playfully, "Stupid Niu, do you still want to continue fighting?" Niu Badian's scalp was numb and his hair stood on end. Somehow he always felt that the other party's eyes were weird, as if he was looking at a delicious dish. "Fellow Taoist Yi, I was just joking with you. In fact, I didn't come here to be your enemy this time," Niu Badian said with a stiff face and a wry smile. "Haha, did you come all the way here to wish me a happy new year?" Yi Junlin's tone was sarcastic. Unexpectedly, Niu Badian nodded like a chick pecking at rice when he heard this. Yes, fellow Taoist Yi is right, I am here to wish you a happy new year." Ahem. Then he pretended to cough a few times, squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying, and congratulated Yi Junlin with a fist. "I wish fellow Taoist Yi to reach the peak of the immortal path and achieve the position of the Immortal Emperor as soon as possible." After saying this, Niu Badian felt that his behavior was that of an out-and-out clown. He came here aggressively to ask for punishment, so he came to wish someone a happy new year. It's outrageous. Seeing the dramatic scene, everyone looked strange. This reversal is more exciting than the New Year's Eve show. Yi Junlin smiled and nodded, "I accept your congratulations. In that case, Niu will take his leave first, you can continue to do your thing, just pretend that I have never been here." Niu Badian left this sentence and turned around and fled. Instantly, the evil wind blew, and the sky and the earth were dark. Swish, just when Niu Badian was about to escape, a golden flying sword intercepted him as fast as lightning. The terrifying sword energy frightened Niu Badian and forced him to stop. Niu Badian's facial muscles twitched, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Fellow Taoist Yi, there is no need to be so ruthless." Yi Junlin said meaningfully, "To be honest, I haven't eaten braised beef for a long time." Niu Badian was shocked, and a chill rushed up his spine to the top of his head, as if to open his skull. No wonder he always felt that this person's eyes were wrong, it turned out that the other party was thinking about his meat. "Yi Junlin, do you really think I have no power to resist?" At this point, Niu Badian was completely forced into a corner, and the purple fairy wheel on his back turned around instantly. Boom! At this moment, Niu Badian's momentum suddenly surged, and his body suddenly had the vast power of 400 ordinary fairy emperors superimposed. Then, he seemed to be performing some kind of secret method, and his muscles bulged all over his body, covered with thick black light. The 2 horns on his head burned with surging black flames, revealing terrifying energy fluctuations. Niu Badian's eyes were bloodshot, his face was full of blue veins, and he raised his head to make a deafening, earth-shaking bull cry. The sound spread throughout the entire Taishuanzhou, frightening countless people and making them feel cold all over. Boom boom boom. In the eyes of countless shocked people, Neobodian's full power shot out like a cannonball, carrying an unparalleled terrifying power, and crashed straight into the handsome young man with long white hair. As the Minotaur crazy, Yi Junlin found it funny, and clenched his fists calmly. His palms became very hot, and the golden light was so bright, containing the breath of shaking the void. This is the 9th grade immortal power. With his cultivation reaching the level of immortal emperor, the 9th grade immortal power he can mobilize has increased from just 10% before to 30% now. But don't underestimate this extra 20%, the increase in power is unimaginable. Then, in full view, Neobodian's violent collision was blocked by Yi Junlin with one hand. A series of roaring sounds like an engine starting up resounded throughout the sky. No matter how hard he tried, poor Neobodian could not move forward at all. The resistance ahead was like an insurmountable chasm. Yi Junlin's face was full of understatement, and he said two very ironic words, "That's it." Neobodian was sweating profusely, his eyes changing from anger, to surprise, to despair. In this attack, he had used all his strength, and the power he exerted was definitely among the best among the immortal emperors. As a result, he couldn't shake the other party at all. Such incredible power, even without using the immortal wheel. Stop fussing, it's useless. After Yi Junlin finished speaking, his palms shook suddenly. Neobodian's head was covered in blood, his two horns were broken, his head was like paste, he was dizzy, and his whole body flew straight out. Everyone's eyes twitched when they saw it. Immortal emperor-level creatures that were as powerful as the Tianyu tribe were all manipulated by the young man. It is conceivable that the strength is simply unfathomable. The golden flying sword emits brilliant light, like the bright sun, and instantly sinks into Neobodian's chest and penetrates out. No, in his mind, his remaining sanity was swallowed up by darkness. Bang! There was a dull banging sound on the ground. After Neobodian died, his original shape appeared. A black bull fell in a pool of blood with no breath at all. Yi Junlin rolled his sleeves and put away the flying sword, clapped his hands and said, "Done." Quiet, deathly silence. Countless people were stunned and their brains could not turn around. Is this dead? Ji Bashao came back to his senses and shouted emotionally, "Senior Yi is invincible." That's right, my master has never lost before. Li Wuji said proudly, feeling that it was completely reasonable. Looking at the body of the black cow, Hong Chenyi looked sarcastic and said, "Why bother? It's a Chinese New Year." Hey, what happened is that the dog would shake his head just looking at it. Gubuli shook the dog's head and sighed. He knew that the Tianyu clan had been glorious in ancient times and was among the top royal families like his own. According to normal circumstances, Neobodian should be unrivaled in combat. It's a pity that you found the wrong person by pretending to be cool. Yi Junlin said, "Xiaoxi. Shu Shu is here." Bai Xiaoxi jumped out with a chef's hat on her head and an apron. Her cute and childish face made people want to pinch it. "Make this cow a whole cow feast so that everyone can enjoy it," Yi Junlin ordered. Okay. Bai Xiaoxi waited for Yi Junlin's words, couldn't wait to drag the cow's tail, and ran to dispose of the body with great interest. On the workbench, Bai Xiaoxi began to work, picking up a silver-white kitchen knife and chopping furiously. Her little face was filled with excitement. She doesn't like fighting, but she loves making delicious food. Why are you standing there in a daze? Keep watching the show. If any of you didn't finish the show just now, keep on playing. Yi Junlin said. The Supreme Holy Lord has spoken, everyone should take your positions. Zhang Tianming quickly stepped forward and shouted. After seeing Neobodian's fate, he was even more grateful for his original choice. What about the immortal emperor? After offending Senior Yi, he was still killed, and even had to be made into an all-ox feast after his death. It was really miserable. Soon, in the auditorium, order was restored again. Center stage. The two disciples took their places, adjusted themselves well, and continued the performance. The blue-haired man raised the golden trident in his hand and shouted hoarsely, "Resurrection, my love." As the bright light shines, bursts of starlight fall like rain, bringing with it a peaceful and sacred aura. The rabbit-eared girl lying on the ground opened her eyes and murmured, "Is it you, third brother? Xiao Wu, you finally woke up." The blue-haired man hugged the bunny-eared girl tightly in excitement, tears sliding down his face, and said in a voice full of infatuation, "This time, we will never be separated, okay?" Chapter 365. C367 Happy New Year. The blue-haired man's true feelings and the bunny-eared girl's dependence on life and death formed a touching scene that made countless young men and women cry. This male protagonist values love and justice, I really cried to death. Whoa, Who on earth planned this outrageous plot? I really want to open his little brain and see what's inside. Brothers and sisters, I see you are all crying. Junior brother, I really want to cry too. Then let's cry together. This will make us appear more gregarious, woo woo. In the auditorium, there were cries and shouts. Many female disciples burst into tears. Some even fainted and could not wake up no matter how hard they shook. See this situation. Yi Junlin was speechless. No, you are too involved in the drama, right? Does it have that much stamina? Moreover, the male protagonist line sounds awkward no matter how you listen to it. How did you get so moved? Here it is. You can quote what a sage named Lu once said in a previous life, human beings' joys and sorrows are not the same. I only think they are noisy. Yi Junlin deeply agrees with this. Finally, the program ended, and at the end was a large-scale singing and dancing performance. The scene was quite festive, with a relaxed and pleasant atmosphere. Bang bang bang, streams of bright light shot toward the sky, and then burst into colorful, dazzling fireworks, rendering the night extremely bright and causing bursts of cheers. Senior Yi, are you satisfied with this annual meeting? Lin Dushou came over and asked cautiously. Well, very good. Yi Junlin nodded, he saw everyone's performance. Suddenly, as if blessed to the core, Yi Junlin's expression moved and he flashed to the center of the stage. Senior Yi, this is, everyone was stunned and held their breath, thinking that this person was about to start lecturing. Subsequently, amid countless astonished glances, Yi Junlin showed a smile on his face, held his fists in a standard gesture and congratulated. New year and new atmosphere, I'm here to wish you all a happy new year. I wish you and your family happiness and peace every year. No matter what year it is, you will have everything going well and a bright future. Say it. The scene was silent for about 7 or 8 seconds, and then cheers erupted like a landslide and tsunami. Well said. The annual meeting is officially over. The sound of firecrackers and fireworks could be heard all the time, and Xuantian Holy Land was enveloped in a joyous atmosphere. The arrival of Niu Badian was like a small episode, which did no harm to the entire annual meeting. On the contrary, it added a different kind of fun to everyone. Elegant yard. Yi Junlin and the others began to enjoy a sumptuous and delicious whole ox feast. There are braised beef, boiled beef, beef stir-fried with green onions, spicy shredded beef, beef fried rice, beef stewed with potatoes, 5-spice beef. The delicious food on every plate exudes a steaming aroma, which makes people salivate and whet their appetite. Thank you for the gift of nature. Yi Junlin picked up a piece of braised beef with chopsticks, put it into his mouth and chewed it slowly, sighing with bright eyes. Niu Badian's arrival was just right. Not only did he give him an experience pack, but he also brought him sumptuous food. Good things come to you. Kang Blangjun ate the beef in the bowl, feeling like he was in a dream. He never thought in his life that one day he would be able to eat an immortal king-level beetle. The kind that can kill the opponent with just a move of his fingers. But now, he's sitting in his bowl. It smells pretty good. Goobuli next to him grabbed the cow's hoof and began to chew it, his dog eyes full of excitement. It's really chewy and the more you eat it. At the same time, he felt a sense of fear. Fortunately, when facing Yi Junlin, he gave in immediately. Otherwise, he would be the one being served to the table. This is choice over effort. Haha, senior sister Bai's cooking skills have never disappointed anyone. Li Wuji ate a few pieces of boiled beef, picked up the big bowl and drank it all in one gulp, with a cheerful expression on his face, and shouted happily. Oh, it's not bad, Bai Xiao, she said without praising her, shyly scratching her head in a cute and charming way. After eating this beef, I have to refine myself in the past few days. I believe my cultivation can be improved a little. Hong Chenyi's eyes flickered, and his mind was full of wanting to improve his realm. The realm of the immortal emperor was very tempting to him. Especially the fairy wheel, it is simply the best way to improve your combat power. It's so hot. Ji Baxiao took a few bites, and his whole body was as red as a furnace, with green smoke rising from the top of his head. Second brother, with your current level of cultivation, don't be greedy. Li Wuji flicked his finger, and a ray of light penetrated into Ji Baxiao's body, helping him dissolve the remaining energy in the beef. Ji Baxiao felt much better now, and said with lingering fear, "Thank you, brother. I thought eating and drinking was a good thing, but I almost lost my life. However, as long as he goes back and refines it a little, it will definitely be of great benefit to his physique." Yi Junlin and the others enjoyed this all-ox feast, and their mouths were full of oil, and they still had more to say. After the New Year's Eve ended successfully, Taishuan Prefecture returned to its previous atmosphere. Because Niu Badian made so much noise, all outside forces were paying close attention. Many resuscitators are frantically inquiring about what happened after Niu Badian broke into Xuantian Holy Land and raised an army to question the crime. After all, he was a powerful immortal emperor of the Tianyu clan, and he was famous in ancient times. Even if he fought with Senior Yi, it would be a fight that would cause the sky to collapse and the earth to split, and the sun and moon to lose their light, right? How could it be so calm? Everyone was eager to know the result, because this contest was related to the situation in the central region. On the attic, the old man in green clothes with a long sword on his back picked up the teapot and drank by himself, his face calm and composed. Old senior, how can you still sit still? Don't you care about the result at all? Zhang Qingzeng paced back and forth, his face full of anxiety. Seeing the other party's calmness, he couldn't help but ask. The people he sent out were already inquiring about the news, and he believed that they would soon know the whole picture. Qinglian Sword Immortal shook his head. Even if the so-called Senior Yi is defeated, I will take action to end it with that demon bull. In his words, he was not optimistic about Yi Junlin, thinking that Niu Badian must have occupied Xuantian Holy Land, and then blocked it from all sides, staying there to slowly torture the group of human cultivators. In order to deal with the troubles that will come, Qinglian Sword Immortal seemed calm and composed during this period, but in fact he was holding on to the sword pill in his dantian, which was his great killing weapon. If he didn't take action, it would be fine. Once he took action, he would have to fight to the death. That's what I said, but, Zhang Qingzeng was about to say something, and suddenly the sound transmission ring was shaking violently. Then, he quickly took out the sound transmission ring and checked the news from his men. Oh my god! After 2 seconds, Zhang Qingzeng was shocked, his face full of disbelief, as if he had heard an extremely explosive news. What's going on? Could it be that the demon bull is up to something again? The Green Lotus Sword Immortal just picked up the teacup, blew a breath at his lips, and said with a dark look in his eyes. Old senior, you don't know. That Niu Badian has been killed by Senior Yi. It is said that his body has been made into a whole cow banquet. Everyone who has eaten it says it's good. Zhang Qingzeng swallowed his saliva with a gurgling throat and said with difficulty. What? The Green Lotus Sword Immortal's mind went blank, and the teacup in his hand fell on the table, splashing tea. As strong as Niu Badian, he was not only beaten to death but also served on the table. Thinking of the recent rumors and the practices of Xuantian Holy Land, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal found that his vision was still too low. Could it be that there is really an ancient giant who stayed in Kunlun realm and quietly made arrangements behind the scenes? If so, the plot is far-reaching. Senior Yi, who are you? After trying to calm down his emotions, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal murmured with a complicated expression. After this incident, this great swordsman, who was famous throughout the Kunlun realm, began to have unprecedented curiosity and ought towards Yi Junlin. Chapter 366. C368 Establish the Immortal Alliance. As the inside story was announced, the news swept through the central region like a hurricane. Countless monks were shocked and stunned. That strong man from the Tianyu clan in the Immortal Emperor realm was killed by Senior Yi just like that. Moreover, after death, he was served as a whole ox feast. Oh my god, how delicious this smells. I heard that the holy son of Yin Yang was also at the scene. From what he revealed, the beef tastes very tender. Senior Yi is so awesome. No wonder he didn't bother to deal with that monster cow before, because it's not on the same level at all. That's right, in Senior Yi's eyes, that demonic cow is walking food. There was a lot of discussion and it was very noisy. When everyone learned about Niu Badian's fate, they felt both sad and gloating. It's not good to provoke anyone, but Senior Yi. Is that something you can mess with? You must seek death. In the circle of resuscitators, it was like a huge earthquake. Sure enough, we guessed correctly before. Senior Yi is a certain human giant from ancient times. He stayed in the Kunlun world for layout. I really want to visit him and see with my own eyes the dignity of Senior Yi. Now that Niu Badian is dead and the 10,000 Demons Alliance has also collapsed, I wonder what will happen to the situation in the Central Territory next. Obviously, after the news of Yi Junlin's victory over Niu Badian came out, it greatly inspired many human resuscitators, and they all felt sincere awe and pride. As for the demon clan, the Hanging Heart finally died. Although he didn't like Niu Badian's rule, after learning Niu Badian's fate, panic spread instantly. Golden State, Qingyang Taoist Palace. An old man wearing a sky-blue robe with a goat's horn full of cracks on his head took a deep breath, and the emotions in his heart were very complicated. After Niu Badian died, his life was indeed much easier, but it also gave him a big warning that the human race who took action was very scary. The old immortal Qingyang was even afraid that because he provided Niu Badian with an opportunity for promotion, he would be settled by the other party in the future and make delicious roasted whole lamb. After all, that senior Yi was simply terrifying. Hey, I just want to live a peaceful life, why do I have to be involved in this whirlpool? The old immortal Qingyang sighed and said bitterly. A remote dojo. There is no life within 100,000 miles, and all the countries, big and small, and the immortal cultivation sects are completely reduced to death. The strong smell of blood filled the air, and dull thunder could be heard faintly from deep in the sky, as if even God couldn't stand it. A dark purple toad, perhaps because it was too full, chose to lie on the cliff and slowly digest it. The terrifying black evil spirit lingers all over the body, making people feel chilled all over, freezing to the bone. During this period, it crazily expanded itself by devouring living creatures, and its cultivation level has returned to that of a top-level immortal king. But there is still a long way to go before the immortal emperor. Suddenly, the ugly toad opened his eyes, and a hint of surprise flashed through his dark red eyes. Aha! It jumped up and plunged into the cold pool at the bottom of the cliff, splashing large swaths of water. At the bottom of the cold pool, a dark blue fruit shaped like a dragon's head sprouted. The surface of the fruit was filled with lightning, and it seemed to contain some mysterious power. Sure enough, the Kunlun world after its recovery will have many celestial beings. This fruit can not only restore me to the realm of the immortal emperor, but also make me stronger on the original basis. My opportunity, Lord Toad, has come. The dark purple toad was overjoyed and without hesitation, he stuck out his scarlet tongue, rolled up the fruit and swallowed it into his stomach. A moment, the fruit did its job. Crackling blue thunder and lightning was released from the body surface, and then gradually transformed into strange dark thunder and lightning. The toad's size began to change dramatically, and its appearance became like a lizard. Sharp spines sprouted from its back, with its tail stretched out, and there were even two small short hands in front of its body, and its eyes glowed with blood as it preyed on others. If Yi Junlin saw it, he would definitely have a strange look on his face. Isn't this Godzilla? 5 months later. Rumble. The bottomless black pool suddenly formed a super large whirlpool, and a terrifying aura as vast as the sea came from it. There was lightning and thunder in the sky, and the wind was strong. Kai, a jet black beam of light shot straight into the sky from the pool. The huge monster's body no longer had any traces of the toad, replaced by a fierce lizard-like appearance standing on 2 legs. That's right, after that magical fruit was swallowed and refined by Lord Toad, it was like a chemical reaction, producing an unprecedented bloodline transformation. Aha! The lizard-like monster turned into a middle-aged man wearing a black cloak, a fierce face, a dark purple ancient crown on his head, and triangular eyes. The fairy wheel behind him indicates his identity. Feeling the earth-shaking changes taking place in his body, Lord Toad's eyes flashed with excitement, and the corners of his mouth curled up with a proud smile. This feeling is really great. Unknowingly, his cultivation has reached the level of the immortal emperor's 6th heaven, and his immortal wheel has reached the rare 7th rotation. Relying on the unparalleled terrifying power in his body, Lord Toad knew that he was no longer what he used to be at this moment, and he was qualified to compete for the strongest throne in the central region. Niu Badian is nothing like that stupid cow. If he stands in front of me, I can suppress him with one hand. As for that senior Yi Hum, the ambition of the Toad Venerable, who had received a huge opportunity, also expanded rapidly. As the saying goes, standing on the wind, even a pig can take off. Having tasted the sweetness, the Toad Venerable was eager to dominate the central region, and then drove the strong men under him to collect natural materials and treasures for him, and take all the immortal opportunities for himself. Although there was a precedent of Niu Badian, greed and desire gradually covered up the inner fear. The Toad Venerable did not want to live under someone else's roof, he wanted to replace him. As his thoughts turned, a vicious light flashed in his eyes, and an unpleasant and piercing strange laugh came out of his mouth. This day, it's time to change. It is worth mentioning. During this period, the Kunlun realm continued to undergo magical changes, and more immortal opportunities were born in the 5 major domains. More and more cultivators benefited from it and their cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. There were very few revivers who even seized the opportunity to be promoted to the realm of the immortal emperor, and they felt that they were superior to the heroes and had great achievements. Central Region, Xuantian Holy Land. In the cave in the back mountain, the yellow-haired old man stepped out with a whisk in his hand. His whole body was filled with a more terrifying aura, and a brilliant immortal wheel appeared behind him, shining brightly. Now, Go Buli's cultivation has recovered to the 4th level of the Immortal Emperor. Although it is still a long way from the peak, his immortal wheel can reach 7 turns, which is relatively rare among the immortal emperors. Moving to the yard, I saw several people playing poker. Senior Yi, you are so lucky, why do you always have good cards? Hey, I have been beaten to a pulp. I explode. That's right, Yi Junlin and the others are playing poker. At this time, Go Buli looked at the silver-haired young man, with mixed feelings in his heart. It was strange, he seemed to have never seen the other party practice, but this realm and strength were there. Although his cultivation level is now comparable to the other party, it is wishful thinking to try to match him. Alas, this is the difference between humans and dogs. During this period, Yi Junlin either ate and drank, or played cards with Zhang Tianming and others for fun. His life was simple and unpretentious. Suddenly, a system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding, congratulations to the host for triggering a new task, establishing the Immortal Tao Alliance, and holding the first meeting. The number of resuscitators present must reach the specified 50 to be considered completed. The reward is the Tao level sword intent. Closing square bracket. Chapter 367. C369 I just want to challenge the high difficulty. Hey, it's time to come. Yi Junlin's eyes showed a strong interest. It's comfortable to eat, drink and have fun every day, but if you can add some fun, isn't it a good thing? Tao grade sword intent. This reward is quite generous. After all, Tian grade sword intent is already the ceiling that 99% of the sword cultivators in the world can't reach. Not to mention the one that is above Tian grade sword intent. Tao grade sword intent. It's hard to imagine that if it can cover such a grade of sword intent, the power of the flying sword will be increased to such a terrible extent. That will be a real sword that breaks all laws. The problem is, to get the Tao grade reward, you must first establish the Shandao Alliance, and you must also require the number of resurrectors present to reach the required 50. To be honest, this is still a bit difficult. Yi Junlin knew very well that the revivers were all powerful people from ancient times, and they all started at the level of Immortal King. These guys were from different camps and had different thoughts. How many of them would be willing to join the Immortal Alliance he founded? Senior Yi, it's your turn. Kanglang Jun looked at the young man and frowned in thought, and reminded him carefully. No more fighting, let's talk business. Yi Junlin threw away the cards in his hand, and his expression became particularly serious. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other, and then hurriedly sat up straight. This person was usually unruly and acted leisurely and casual, but now he suddenly became serious, and there must be something important to announce. Senior Yi, what instructions do you have? We will definitely strictly implement them. Lu Qingming took out a small notebook and a brush, his eyes were bright and his expression was serious. Zhang Tianming glanced at him sideways, and said in his heart, good boy, just pretend, who can pretend better than you? To be honest, the subordinates performed so well that even he, as a boss, felt a sense of crisis. As the saying goes, the disciple is better than the master. The other party must have read emotional intelligence a lot, and he might want to use this to overtake others. I have decided to announce the establishment of the Immortal Alliance to let more ancient cultivators join. Yi Junlin said in a deep voice. Immortal Alliance. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed again and again. What? Go Buli's pupils shook violently. Various thoughts emerged in his mind, and his heart was like a storm. As the watchdog of the Fuyao Empress, he knew very well what the 4 words, Immortal Alliance, meant. In the distant ancient times, DTN advocated the establishment of the Immortal Alliance, and he would serve as the leader to re-establish the order and rules of the Kunlun realm, nominally to make all immortals respect him. However, at that time, in addition to him, there were also the Fuyao Empress, Cheng Shengwang, and Luan. These 3 were all powerful and prestigious, and naturally did not accept DTN's decision. Later, Emperor Tian and them had a fight. Although he stopped at a certain point and did not fight to the death, after that fight, Emperor Tian never mentioned this matter again. After all, the concept of the Immortal Alliance is too big. Since it contains the word, immortal, it must include all immortals. And as the leader of the alliance, he must be the recognized strongest. Only in this way can he convince the crowd. Although Emperor Tian had not yet transcended the Immortal Emperor at that time, he thought he was already the strongest in the Immortal Tao and was qualified to sit in this position and rule all the immortals in the Kunlun realm. As a result, there were 3 top big names in the same period: Fuyao Empress, Cheng Shengwang, and Luan. These 3 have always been unwilling to submit to each other and usually compete with each other secretly. When they saw Emperor Tian's self-righteous behavior, they were instantly annoyed and agreed to go and beat him together. Di Tian, who was besieged by the joint siege, had no choice but to face the reality. Later, they all transcended the immortal emperor and never mentioned this matter again. This old news was passed down by word of mouth in Kunlun realm back then, and everyone knew that the immortal alliance was an illusory concept. It's okay to talk about it privately, but don't take action, otherwise you don't know how you will die one day. So, when he heard that Yi Junlin was going to establish the immortal alliance, Go Buli's expression was so wonderful. Are you serious? Okay, great. The name of the immortal alliance sounds very domineering. I will write it down for Senior Yi and go outside to promote it. Lu Qingming hurriedly took notes with a very attentive attitude. Shut up, you kid know nothing. Kang Langjun raised his hand excitedly, patted Lu Qingming's head, and scolded. Lu Qingming's head was buzzing, and stars were in his eyes. He tried to recover, touched his head and said aggrievedly, Senior Li, why did you hit me? Let you pretend. Zhang Tianming felt a little gloating in his heart, but pretended to be puzzled and said, yes, why did you hit Elder Lu? Xiao Dezi, you'd better explain. Yi Junlin narrowed his eyes slightly, with a hint of unkindness in his tone. Is it wrong for him to establish the immortal alliance? Being stared at coldly by this young man, Kang Langjun felt a chill on his back instantly, and hurriedly stood up and bowed, explaining in a panic. Senior Yi, I'm just worried about you. Oh, Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. Isn't it just to establish an immortal alliance? Is it necessary to be so panicked? He didn't know what the immortal alliance meant, but as a cultivator in ancient times, he was very secretive about it. The immortal alliance represents the strongest force of immortal cultivation. The meaning behind it is to rule all immortal creatures. Regardless of their origin and race, they must be under the jurisdiction of the immortal alliance. As the initiator, that is, the leader of the immortal alliance, he must be the most recognized immortal in the entire Kunlun world. Only in this way can he obey. Kang Langjun was sweating profusely, and explained, I don't think that Senior Yi is not qualified. After all, there are many strong people in the central region, and the other 4 regions are also full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Once it is announced to the public, it will cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. Hearing this, Zhang Tianming and Lu Qingming were shocked. Unexpectedly, there is such a deep meaning behind the establishment of the Immortal Alliance. They thought it was just a force similar to the 10,000 Demons Alliance. In this case, Senior Yi wants to. The 2 looked at the young man again, with a deeper sense of awe than before. Question mark. Yi Junlin was stunned, and a big question mark appeared on his head. What the hell is this? Is it necessary to make a big deal? I just want to get a reward. After hearing Kang Langjun's explanation, Yi Junlin finally understood the weight of the 4 words, Immortal Alliance. It can only be said that this task is somewhat difficult. Sure enough, it is not that easy to obtain the Dao grade sword intent. He is right. Go Buli suppressed the shock in his heart and walked over with a solemn face. Fellow Taoist Yi, if you really want to establish the Shandao Alliance, you will inevitably face many challenges, because in this world of great contention, not every genius is willing to submit to you. What's more, the cultivation environment is changing now, and more creatures will take advantage of this favorable wind to rise straight up. You may have to face their collective attack. This is the challenge you have to face as the leader of the Shandao Alliance. Because the person who sits on this seat must be recognized as the strongest in the Shandao. Go Buli's tone was extremely serious, and there was also a hint of admonition. Even if he admitted that Yi Junlin was very powerful and suspected to be a favored person of the heavenly Dao, this was really not a joke. Even the Son of Luck might be backfired. Maybe you can maintain your invincible record in a one-on-one fight, but if you are attacked by all kinds of geniuses, can you still maintain your peak state? It will always go downhill. When you are surrounded and in danger, maybe even the heavenly Dao will not be able to watch it and will directly give up on you and choose another potential monster. In a word, don't be a man who wants to die. Yi Junlin was speechless. I just took a reward, is the nature really that serious? Enough. Yi Junlin waved his hand, I must establish this immortal Dao alliance. If anyone is dissatisfied, just come on. No matter how difficult and dangerous the road is, I will block it alone. Anyway, I will become stronger when I meet a strong opponent, and my cultivation has no limit. Chapter 368, C370 People's Hearts Change. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Fellow Taoist Yi, you. For a moment, Go Buli was distracted. For some reason, he felt that this young man might really be able to do it. After all, the other party was more qualified and had greater potential than the Empress Fuyao back then. As long as you have absolute strength, nothing is impossible. Hey, since fellow Taoist Yi insists on doing so, then we will announce this news in your name. Go Buli sighed and smiled bitterly. After the establishment of the Immortal Tao Alliance, I will hold another meeting, preferably with more than 50 resuscitators participating. Yi Junlin said seriously. Go Buli was a little depressed, and he secretly muttered in his heart, I didn't expect that you have indicators in this regard. At this point, he had to risk his old face and add some chips to this matter to help Yi Junlin build momentum in order to recruit more resuscitators to join. After all, as a follower of the former Empress Fuyao, this identity is still quite important. The most important thing is that through this period of contact, Go Buli has decided to bet on the other party. He believes that his vision is correct. Then, an astonishing news came from Xuantian Holy Land, sweeping across the central region like a storm. Damn, Senior Yi is going to establish the Immortal Alliance. Is it to use this to formulate the rules of the central region? I hope Senior Yi can restrain those ancient cultivators and stop them from acting recklessly in the central region. Yes, this is the top priority. Contemporary cultivators do not know the value of the Immortal Alliance, and they think it is as simple as a cultivation force. They only hope that the emergence of the Immortal Alliance can bring new order to the current chaotic central region. In the past few months, it has been reported from time to time that ancient cultivators have divided the boundaries, or fierce battles have broken out for the fight for the immortal fate, which has caused great trouble to many local forces, and all the cultivators are worried. They all sincerely hope that there will be an absolute force to integrate the current chaotic situation in the central region. To put it simply, the current central region is like a war between princes, with heroes rising up everywhere. The common people are eager for a hero to sweep across the world, unify the world, and end this chaotic world. The concept of the Immortal Alliance has given everyone a glimmer of hope. In the minds of countless contemporary cultivators, Senior Yi is the only choice to dominate the central region. However, for the resurrected, when Yi Junlin proposed to establish the Immortal Alliance, the whole circle exploded instantly. In ancient times, they knew clearly about the rumor that Emperor Tian wanted to establish the Immortal Alliance, but was beaten by the 3 women of Fuyao and dared not say a word. It is enough to see how difficult it is to establish the Immortal Alliance. The initiator is destined to become the target of public criticism, which is equivalent to being roasted directly on the fire. I admit that Senior Yi is very powerful, but isn't it a bit presumptuous for him to establish the Immortal Alliance? Yes, does he think that he can dominate this era of immortal cultivation? This is even more outrageous than the 10,000 Demons Alliance founded by Neubadian before. At this moment, a large number of ancient creatures distributed in the central region were transmitting information to each other through communication light symbols. It is obvious, they generally took a negative and resistant attitude towards Yi Junlin's decision. Why not establish something else? It is equivalent to announcing to the world in disguise that he is the strongest person in the immortal way. Not long after, Xuantian Holy Land issued another statement. 10 days later, the Immortal Alliance will hold its first meeting in Tingfeng Tower. All revivers are invited to participate. No matter what race, they can join to look forward to the future and discuss major issues together. Seeing this posture, everyone was extremely surprised. No, are you serious? At the same time, Go Buli came out. He directly expressed his support and called on more like-minded resuscitators to join. Who is this old guy? He looks like a human, how can he be so arrogant? Don't talk nonsense, he was once a legend of the Tengu tribe, the only one in the tribe who could follow the Fuyao Empress. Hiss, I remember, it's really him. Even the followers of the Fuyao Empress went to support Senior Yi, what does this mean? Maybe, Senior Yi is really qualified. We should believe him. I have to say, Go Buli's identity can still play a certain role in assisting. After all, in everyone's eyes, even the followers of the former Fuyao Empress are willing to stand up for Senior Yi to support the scene. Doesn't this just show that Senior Yi is unique? Soon, the voices of support increased. Although it can only stir up a small wave, it is better than nothing in this public opinion. Somewhere in a deserted place, the middle-aged man with triangular eyes and sinister eyes wearing a black cloak showed a cruel smile after receiving the communication light talisman. Interesting, just give this venerable a chance to establish his authority. Venerable toad rose from the ground, turned into a dark black light, split the sky and went straight to the destination. Even though the area of the central region has expanded by more than 10,000 times compared to a few months ago, and the roads between the various dojo have become very far, but in front of a powerful immortal emperor like him, teleporting thousands of miles in a breath, what does it matter? Swish swish swish, the surrounding scenery was changing rapidly, and the Chanzun couldn't wait to kick this so-called senior Yi off the altar. Xuantian Holy Land, everyone gathered together. Fellow Taoist Yi, I will come forward to guarantee that more revivers will be present at that time. Go Buli said in a deep voice. Thank you, Yi Junlin nodded. He, the position of the leader of the Immortal Alliance must be my master. If anyone disobeys in the future, just chop him with a knife. Li Wuji hugged his arms, with a rebellious smile on his lips. During this period, he has gradually mastered the heavenly sword intent, and his cultivation is also at the peak of the immortal monarch, which can be said to be a great increase in combat power. Haha, those guys better be sensible, otherwise I will let them know that there is no regret medicine in this world. The person who spoke was wearing a flame-red dress, with his hair tied behind his head, 2 strands of hair hanging down on his cheeks, heroic eyebrows and eyes, delicate features like a painting, and a look of indifference and alienation, like a cold goddess. Anyone who saw it would be unforgettable. Hong Chenny, who had recently come out of retreat, had an extremely powerful aura on his body, and was calm and composed in his every move. This is a kind of confidence that comes from strength. Just because he has entered the realm of the immortal king, he is no longer the same as before. You know, when the whole cow banquet was held, the two of them ate with their stomachs open. With the nourishment of the flesh and blood of the immortal emperor-level creatures, plus their own talents and qualifications, their cultivation level suddenly improved by leaps and bounds. Seeing this, Yi Junlin waved his hand. Hey, we should win people over with virtue, don't always fight and kill. Question marks appeared on everyone's foreheads. Why does it sound so out of place when you say this? Actually, I don't have any other requirements. I just hope that there will be more than 50 resurrectors to show their support. Yi Junlin said, picked up the teacup and took a sip. Senior Yi, why does it have to be more than 50? Can't it be 49? 48? The clever Lin Dusho found the blind spot and boldly raised this question. Yi Junlin slowly put down the teacup, stared at Lin Dusho, and said seriously after a long silence. Because, I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail, 300 times 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 times 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 369. C371. The most embarrassing thing is this. The 10-day period is coming soon. In the most prosperous area of Taishuan Prefecture, a pagoda-like, exquisite and elegant attic stands tall, containing various mysterious formations, and the whole body is filled with dense purple energy. This is Tingfeng Pavilion, a good place that countless monks yearn for and admire, because in this special attic, you can make top connections and obtain the most reliable intelligence resources. In short, as long as you can enter Tingfeng Tower, it means that you have entered the top circle of immortal cultivation. It can be called a gathering place for the big guys in the central region. However, what the world doesn't know is that Tingfeng Tower is actually one of the properties of Xuantian Holy Land. Since the Immortal Alliance was going to hold its first meeting, the entire Tingfeng building was directly booked and used as an important reception venue. On the top floor of Tingfeng building, there is a magnificent, spacious and bright hall. Yi Junlin stood in front of the railing with his hands behind his hands, looking at the billowing clouds in front of him, not knowing what he was thinking. The fruits here are so delicious. Bai Xiaoxi sat on the VIP chair, swaying her short legs constantly, stretched out her little hand to pick up the local specialty fruit in front of her, put it to her mouth and bit it. The juice splashed everywhere, the taste was refreshing, and her cute face was filled with satisfaction. Is it really delicious? Big Mushroom King came up to him in idle boredom, and also wanted to enjoy his taste. Yeah, there are more here. Bai Xiaoxi pointed to the other side, where there were various colorful fruits on the fruit plate. The Big Mushroom King was stunned, his mouth twitched a few times, and he waved his hand. Then I won't eat it, you can eat it. The reason why he resisted so much was because the fruits looked very similar to mushrooms. Eating them will make you feel sick. Damn it, we've been waiting here for almost 2 hours, but we haven't seen a single person yet. Don't they really want to find a way out for themselves? Hong Chenny stood up from the chair, her eyes flashing coldly, and her tone was unkind. Damn it, if you don't give our master face, go back and find them one by one and chop them to death. Li Wuji said angrily, preparing to walk around and smear his knife with blood afterwards. Go Buli frowned, that's strange, no one came, right? It's so embarrassing. Fortunately, he also revealed his identity to the public, just to build momentum for Yi Junlin and create the legitimacy of the other party as the leader of the Immortal Alliance. Do you really want to draw water from a bamboo basket and get nothing? Hey, I guess there is no hope. Lord Kanglang sighed. Although he admitted that Yi Junlin was very prestigious now, he was still a bit fanciful in this matter. But this is good, it can save a lot of trouble later. After all, the position of leader of the Immortal Alliance is not that easy to take. Just when everyone thought that this meeting was going to be completely ruined, a sharp whistling sound suddenly came from the horizon. Yi Junlin narrowed his eyes slightly, someone is coming. I saw a brilliant blue light piercing through the thick clouds, carrying an extremely fierce aura, quickly approaching Tingfeng Tower. The person who came was an old man with gray hair, wearing a simple green shirt, with a green sword light on his feet, and his hands behind his back. His face was as smooth as ever, and his deep eyes seemed to be able to see everything in the world. When he saw Yi Junlin standing in front of the railing, the old man in blue had a look of surprise in his eyes. At the same time, everyone saw the old resuscitator. The aura of this old man is a bit weird, as if he has a hidden disease, and his cultivation level is only on par with me. Hong Chenny raised her eyebrows, with a hint of contempt in her words. Be content, it's better than none coming at all. Gu Buli said with a wry smile. Li Wuji frowned, as if he sensed something, his face showed a rare solemnity, and he said in a deep voice. This old man is very extraordinary. Having a heavenly sword intent, he suddenly found a similar feeling in the green-shirted old man. It can be inferred from this that the other party is actually a hidden strong man. Yi Junlin's eyes subconsciously turned behind the old man in green shirt. Seeing the empty scene, he felt a little depressed. Good guy, only one is here. This is still far from the system's mission. Forget it, the visitor is a guest, and he should still be entertained. Fellow Taoist, please come in. Yi Junlin extended his hand with a smile without any airs. The old man in green shirt nodded and landed on the corridor. Looking at the handsome young man with extraordinary temperament and long snow-white hair hanging down his waist, he bowed his hands and asked tentatively. May I ask that you are the founder of the Immortal Alliance? Yi Junlin gave him the feeling that he was like an endless sea, not knowing where the end was. Unfathomable. Exactly, I'm here next to Yi Junlin. Yi Junlin cupped his hands and said. When it was confirmed that the other party was Senior Yi, whom the outside world had rumored to be, the old man in green shirt's pupils shrank uncontrollably, causing huge waves in his heart. I've admired you for a long time. His tone was a little more odd. At the same time, the old man in green shirt felt very puzzled because he had never heard of a giant cultivator named Yi Junlin in ancient times. Could it be that I am ignorant? I wonder what this fellow Taoist's name is, Yi Junlin asked symbolically. I am the Qinglian Sword Immortal. As soon as these words came out, before Yi Junlin could say anything, Kang Langjun's exclamation came from behind him. Oh my god, you are the Qinglian Sword Immortal. Kang Langjun was shocked, as if he had seen a legendary figure. Is this old man famous? Hong Chenny's expression moved. You don't know, this senior was a recognized great swordsman in Kunlun realm back then, and he was also a top-notch Immortal Emperor realm powerhouse. He was once valued by many immortal lords and offered generous conditions to recruit him, but he refused them all. Kang Langjun was very excited. He was surprised to see this legendary swordsman of the human race here. Hearing this, Hong Chenny was a little surprised. This old man with a hidden illness and unstable breath, what's the origin behind him? Humph, I knew that this old man was definitely not ordinary. Li Wuji said in a deep voice. Qinglian swordsman, it seems that I was quite optimistic about him at the beginning. Go Buli nodded, as if he could barely meet his eyes. After all, during the years when he was a watchdog for Empress Fuyao, the people who came to visit were all Immortal Emperor level figures. Even though the Green Lotus Sword Immortal is quite famous, his ability is limited to the Immortal Emperor realm, but he has great potential. Maybe one day he can become an Immortal Venerable, or even touch the threshold of the Immortal Emperor. What surprised Go Buli was that the other party's condition was very bad now, as if he was suffering from an old illness and his cultivation was difficult to improve. This was very different from the vigorous middle-aged appearance he had seen when he used the void mirror. I really don't know what happened to this person. Why did he change so much? Alas, that was a long time ago. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal sighed and looked at the elegant old man who recognized him first, with a kind smile on his face. I wonder what your name is, fellow Taoist. Junior Kanglang Jun, Kanglang Jun said respectfully. Senior, I admired you so much back then. Huh, hearing this, the smile on the Green Lotus Sword Immortal's face froze and disappeared in an instant. His eyes flashed with an intimidating cold light, and he shouted angrily. Asshole, so you are the immoral rat who likes to forge things. I have been looking for you for a long time. I didn't expect you to dare to appear in front of me. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal's face was full of anger, as if he saw an enemy. Kanglang Jun, it's over, it seems that I have met a victim, what should I do? Waiting online, very urgent. Chapter 370. C372 Big Profiteer. This sudden reversal left everyone stunned. Yi Junlin had a strange look on his face and looked at Kanglang Jun who was full of panic. Xiao Dezi, when did you offend fellow Taoist Qinglian? Kanglang Jun spread his hands in frustration, indicating that he was also confused. After all, he had tricked so many people back then that he couldn't even remember that his victim was the famous Qinglian Sword Immortal. Senior, is there any misunderstanding between you and me? Kanglang Jun forced out a stiff smile and said weakly, rubbing his hands together. Snort. Qinglian Sword Immortal had a dark face, shook down his sleeves heavily, and said angrily. I still remember that I wanted to buy a defensive magic weapon in case of emergency. In order to cause unnecessary sensation, I went to the famous black market to try my luck until I fell in love with a shield-shaped magic weapon, and found that it turned out to be the prototype of the best immortal emperor-level fairy weapon. In order to avoid being picked up by others after seeing through it, I suppressed the secret joy in my heart and quickly delivered 100,000 top-quality fairy crystals, and then quickly took it away and left the black market. Quote. When I found a safe place to stay and wanted to take out the magic weapon and study it carefully, I found that it had been reduced to scrap metal. I was shocked and angry, so I went back to the place where I came from, but the seller had long disappeared. I had no choice but to hold back my anger, and went around to find out who in the entire Kunlun world had such realistic forgery abilities. Unexpectedly, the target of the attack was pointed at a monk named Kanglangjun. Later I found out that in the past few years, there have been many Taoist friends. Fooled. The Qinglian Sword Immortal became more and more excited as he spoke, spitting like flying stars. He did not have the steady demeanor of the Great Sword Immortal in the past. It is conceivable that this incident of being deceived became a stain on his life, and he still feels resentful about it to this day. You know, when he saw that magic weapon back then, he thought he had gotten a huge bargain. After all, if it was really the best immortal emperor-level magic weapon, it would be listed as a priceless treasure in many places in the Kunlun world. Only in the top circles would it be available. It is possible to purchase it. Moreover, the price of this kind of fairy weapon is definitely not something that can be purchased with just 100,000 top-quality fairy crystals. It would take at least 1 million top-quality fairy crystals to even have a chance. Therefore, Qinglian Sword Immortal thought that he had missed something, so he quickly paid the money, took the goods and left. When he took out the magic weapon with great potential with an excited heart and trembling hands, he found that it had turned into scrap metal. The psychological gap was extremely huge. It's like falling from heaven to hell. In the eyes of disbelief, there were 3 parts shock and 7 parts anger. I give you my heart, but you pour your urine on me. Since then, Qinglian Sword Immortal has believed in a truth. When things go wrong, there must be a demon. Unfortunately, he has already delivered 100,000 top-grade immortal crystals. This kind of loss will be heartbreaking for most immortal emperors. Every time I think about it, Qinglian Sword Immortal feels that he is a super evil pen. After all, if you can spend 100,000 top-quality fairy crystals to buy a piece of rags, what else is it if it's not a bad thing? The most uncomfortable thing is that he dare not tell anyone about this matter, for fear of damaging his glorious image as a great swordsman. I thought it would be difficult to see the culprit in this life, but I didn't expect to meet this former seller here. God has eyes, and I actually let me encounter you, an unscrupulous rat who specializes in making fakes, again. Saying that, Qinglian Sword Immortal rushed over angrily, raised his hand to form a terrifying blue sword energy, and quickly placed it on Lord Kanglang's neck. The sword energy was millimeters away from his neck. It seems that the next second, his head will fall to the ground. Senior, if you have something to say, please tell me. I didn't know it was you at the beginning. Mr. Kanglang was so frightened that he lost his mind. His body was stiff and he did not dare to move, for fear of being killed by the emotional old man in blue. Regardless of his level, he is currently at the 9th level of the Immortal King, and has a cultivation advantage over his opponent, the 1st level of the Immortal King. But in terms of his true ability, even 100 of him are not enough to defeat him. This old man, Hong Chenyi's pupils shrank and his eyebrows jumped because he felt a fatal threat from the green sword energy. Hong Chenyi has always claimed to be invincible in his field, and challenges across levels are commonplace. However, when he saw the old man in blue take action, he suddenly felt a lot of pressure, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. Tianpin sword intent. Li Wujia's eyes flashed, and he said in a deep voice when he saw the quintessence of sword intent floating on the blue sword aura. And he could feel that the opponent's heavenly grade sword intent was more solid, even reaching perfection. This is incredible. It is enough to show how valuable this great swordsman is. Li Wuji suddenly felt a little ashamed, because his heavenly grade sword intent was currently only at the stage of small success. Compared with the opponent's heavenly grade sword intention, which was almost perfect, it was like the gap between soft mud and hard stone. At this time, Qinglian Sword Immortal's attention was all on Lord Kanglang. Faced with the culprit's sophistry, Qinglian Sword Immortal sneered, "You mean, do you think I deserve what I deserve?" On his neck, the green sword energy hissed, making Kanglang Jun's face turn pale with fright. A chill rushed down his back to the top of his head, and his scalp almost exploded. His expression seemed like he was about to cry, and his voice had a hint of crying. "Senior, what exactly do you want from me? Do you even need to ask?" Qinglian Sword Immortal took a deep breath, his eyes widened, and he shouted, "Mom, please give me your money back." The old voice filled with anger made the entire Tingfeng building tremble. "Ah, you scared me." Bai Xiaoxi covered her ears and hid behind Yi Junlin in fear. Looking at the Qinglian Sword Immortal who transformed into an irritable old man, Kanglang Jun flattened his mouth and said with an aggrieved face, "Just refund the money." "Why are you shouting so loudly? I will pay you 10 times the original price." "Okay. HMPH, you know what's going on." After learning that there was a huge amount of compensation, Qinglian Sword Immortal's anger subsided slightly. "Otherwise, I will act on behalf of God and get rid of this big scourge like you." Gubuli's eyes were filled with surprise, and he looked at Kanglang Jun again. "Hey, you guy has a lot of financial resources. 10 times the compensation, which is 1 million top-grade fairy crystals. Among all the immortal kings, this is definitely an unimaginable amount of money. If you are a relatively poor immortal king, it is normal for you to be able to collect only 10,000 top-quality immortal crystals." Unexpectedly, Lord Kanglang could take out 1,000,000 top-quality fairy crystals with a wave of his hand. This kind of strong financial resources would even surprise many immortal emperors. The prizes are all the savings saved through hard work over the years. Lord Kanglang embarrassedly took out his storage bag, offered it to Qinglian Sword Immortal with both hands, and said sincerely, "Senior, please accept it." Qinglian Sword Immortal took the storage bag angrily and said with a thorn in his words, "I have to say that in this world, you have to sell fake goods. It is faster to make money by being a profiteer." "I made you laugh," Kanglang Jun said awkwardly. For the sake of huge compensation, Qinglian Sword Immortal didn't bother to pay attention to the other party. At this time, he opened the storage bag to himself. His consciousness suddenly changed, and his face suddenly changed. He glared at Kanglang Lord and shouted, "After all this time, you still dare to play tricks on me?" Die. Unable to bear it any longer, he once again condensed the green sword energy with one hand and struck hard at Kanglang Jun, who was stunned. Chapter 371. C373 Unexpected Surprise. Feeling the danger of death, Kanglang Jun came back to his senses and said in panic, "Senior, why is it so?" As a result, the next second, the green sword energy was gently clamped by 2 fingers before it could be chopped down. "You." Qinglian Sword Immortal was shocked. The one blocking his way was Yi Junlin. Yi Junlin's 2 fingers were like pliers, firmly clamping the green sword energy. Swish. The terrifying heavenly sword intent was boiling, but it was difficult to penetrate between the fingers. Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. This old man is really something. Under the premise of the difference in cultivation, the sword energy emitted by the other party actually made his fingers feel slightly numb, as if there was an electric current passing through. If they were in the same realm, wouldn't his fingers be scratched? Horrible. Dao Yi, are you going to protect him? Dao Yu Qinglian suppressed the shock in his heart and said in a solemn voice with a solemn face. The sword just now gathered the perfect heavenly sword intent. Even ordinary immortal emperors dared not be careless. I didn't expect that the silver-haired young man in front of him could block it with just 2 fingers. No wonder Niu Badian died so miserably before. Xiao Dezi is a handyman beside me after all. You must have a suitable reason to kill him. Besides, didn't you agree to 10 times compensation just now? Why did you suddenly turn against me? Yi Junlin asked seriously. Senior Yi, Kanglang Jun was moved to tears. For the first time, he felt that the name of Xiao Dezi was so kind. Qinglian Sword Immortal had a gloomy face and gritted his teeth and said, he is too much. Playing tricks on me. There is not even a single top-grade immortal crystal in the storage bag, let alone millions of top-grade immortal crystals. Huh, Yi Junlin looked at Kanglang Jun in astonishment, his eyes seemed to say. Li Yud, you are really wicked. It has come to this, and you still dare to play tricks on others. Kanglang Jun was also shocked. No way, let me see. Quote. After picking up the storage bag and carefully checking it, the big profiteer showed a blank expression. This, in Kanglang Jun's impression, he had saved at least 2 million top-grade immortal crystals, but now the immortal crystals in the storage bag added together, there is not even half a top-grade immortal crystal. Roughly speaking, there are only 500 top-grade immortal crystals at most. Although 500 top-grade immortal crystals are also a huge sum of money for ordinary immortals, compared with millions of top-grade immortal crystals, it is the difference between a drop of water and the sea. You know, even 1,000 top-grade immortal crystals are equal to 1 top-grade immortal crystal. So, when Qinglian Sword Immortal saw the pitiful immortal crystals in the storage bag, he was furious and felt that Kanglang Jun was deliberately humiliating him. Yi Junlin said with a strange look, Xiao Dezi, didn't you cheat a lot of people's money in the past? Where is the money now? Don't pretend to be stupid to me. I don't believe that you only have this little savings. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal said angrily. Oh, I remember now. Kanglang Jun slapped his head and said apologetically, when the fairyland was established, I didn't go, but I left most of my savings to my granddaughter. So the money is all with her. You old wicked man, you actually have a granddaughter. Yi Junlin was surprised. Kanglang Jun smiled bitterly and said, Senior Yi, look at what you said. What about your granddaughter? Go ask her. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal scolded. The problem is that my granddaughter followed the tribe to the fairyland back then. So many years have passed, and I don't know how she is now. I guess, hey, Lord Kanglang seemed to think of something and sighed sadly. In these endless years, even if a powerful fairy king really lives from ancient times to the present, he will inevitably run out of life and die. Even if he is a fairy emperor, even if he still has extra life, his soul will gradually decay in these long years and eventually become a body without an owner. Only creatures above the fairy master level not only have a huge lifespan to support their survival to the present world, but also have a more stable soul that can effectively maintain a normal state. This is also the reason why Lord Kanglang is so sad. Because so much time has passed, his granddaughter is very likely to have passed away. You mean, you can't pay the money back, right? Qinglian Sword Immortal's face was particularly ugly. Senior, it's unfair. If I had money, I could really double your compensation, but this is all I have left. Otherwise, you can make do with it first. I will go back to my old job and make it up to you. Kanglang Jun said sincerely, don't you trust my business ability? Qinglian Sword Immortal was speechless for a moment. Even the old man has been deceived, what do you think? Stop. Yi Junlin looked at Kanglang Jun and said seriously, Xiao Dezi, don't do this kind of thing that cheats people's money around me. Senior Yi, but this money. Don't worry, I'll help you to advance it, even if you sell it to me from now on. Originally, the first half of the words made Kanglang Jun very surprised, but the second half made him stunned. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Dao Yu Qinglian, you take it. Quote. After saying that, Yi Junlin took out a storage bag and threw it to Qinglian Sword Immortal as if it was free. As his realm improved, the system's daily sign-in rewards also increased, and the system's sign-in rewards had already accumulated a huge amount of wealth for him, and the top-grade immortal crystals were no longer a rare thing. Yesterday, when the system signed in on time, a super gift package of fairy crystals was triggered. When I opened it, I saw that there must be at least tens of millions of top-quality fairy crystals. To this, Yi Junlin was numb. Actually, I'm really not interested in money. Qinglian Sword Immortal opened the storage bag doubtfully, scanned it carefully with his consciousness, and was instantly stunned. There are 5 million top-quality fairy crystals in the storage bag. Fellow Taoist Yi, this is too much. Qinglian Sword Immortal's words were incoherent. His entire life's possessions combined did not amount to this amount. Yi Junlin waved his hand. Money is not the point. The point is that I think you are a talented person with vision. How do you say this? Qinglian Sword Immortal's attitude was much more respectful. Look, I announced to the public that I would establish the Immortal Alliance, but after so long, you were the only one present. Since you are willing to give me face, I will not treat you badly. You should keep this money and treat it as a meeting gift from me. Yi Junlin said seriously. Meet and greet. Qinglian Sword Immortal's eyes widened, and the hand holding the storage bag was trembling. Give away 5 million top-quality fairy crystals as soon as you meet. Even the conditions offered by the immortals who wanted to recruit him were not as high as the meeting gift. What a generous and well-organized man this is. As for what happened just now, Yi Junlin pointed out something. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Yi, I will never pursue it again. The resentment in Qinglian Sword Immortal's heart was completely gone, and he immediately expressed his stance seriously. Just kidding, he lost 100,000 top-grade immortal crystals back then, and now he has 5 million top-grade fairy crystals as compensation. What else can he be dissatisfied with? Let go of grudges with a smile. This is the charm of money. Ahem. Before he finished, Yi Junlin cleared his throat and continued. Fellow Taoist Qinglian, do you know? I can give 1 million to anyone who betrays me, while those who are loyal to me will receive hundreds of millions in the future. Understand the applause. Bang bang bang. Hong Chenny and the others immediately clapped on the spot, with expressions of deep approval on their faces. This, Qinglian Sword Immortal was greatly shocked. Yi Junlin's words had a different meaning to him. To those who betrayed you back then, you gave 1 million of the best immortal crystals, and to those who are loyal to you now, you will receive hundreds of millions of the best immortal crystals in the future. Qinglian Sword Immortal's scalp was numb, and his throat was rumbling as he swallowed saliva. It's true, with such wealth, this man must be a top tycoon from ancient times. This layout is really too big. If it were an ordinary person who said such words, Qinglian Sword Immortal would definitely sneer at him and think he was bragging. But Yi Junlin just gave him a meeting gift worth 5 million high-quality immortal crystals. He was so generous that he couldn't believe it. It's like taking money and blinding him directly. I feel like whatever I say is right. That makes sense. When he heard Yi Junlin say such shocking words, Go Buli had a look of astonishment on his face. You kid, are you reading pattern secretly? Yi, Senior Yi, I have offended you so much before, I still hope Haihan. At this moment, Qinglian Sword Immortal changed his name to Yi Junlin, and his tone was more respectful. It doesn't matter, Yi Junlin lamented. It's a pity that the Immortal Alliance has already been disbanded before it has grown stronger. In fact, he didn't care about the Immortal Alliance or anything like that. What he wanted most was the mission reward. Who knows, only one resuscitator came to support him, which was far short of the requirements of the mission. Senior Yi, the Immortal Alliance will never be disbanded. Through the previous contact, Qinglian Sword Immortal was impressed by Yi Junlin's charisma and decided to add fuel to the flames and help the other party facilitate this matter. Do you have any idea? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. Everyone, just wait for the good news. Qinglian Sword Immortal straightened his back and said solemnly. I saw him making seals with both hands, and a spell wave passed through the void, seeming to be transmitted to some distant place. Everyone looked at each other. About tens of seconds later, bursts of wind and thunder came from the horizon. Boom boom boom. Yi Junlin looked outside, with a look of surprise in his eyes. Wu Yangyang's figure surged in like a tide, and the whole body exuded a vast and powerful aura. Among them are men and women, old and young, with different costumes, but they are all human race, and they are all immortal kings. 3,000 immortal king-level experts rushed to Tingfeng Tower. The terrifying momentum caused the color of heaven and earth to change. It also made the monks who were observing in the dark frightened to death and fled in a hurry. Swish swish swish, they landed in unison and filed into the hall from the passage. Everyone's face was full of nervousness and curiosity. Zhang Qingzang, who was taking the lead, looked at Qinglian Sword Immortal seriously. Old Senior, we are all here as agreed. Are you sure you can trust it? I guarantee with my reputation that Senior Yi is fully qualified to be the leader of this alliance. He is a person worthy of following and trusting. Qinglian Sword Immortal vowed. Fellow Taoist Qinglian, you gave me a surprise. Yi Junlin was very surprised. 3,000 resuscitators finally arrived, which was far more than the system's requirements. It simply solved an urgent need. Qinglian Sword Immortal adjusted his state and bowed his hands, saying, to be honest, I have already agreed with them that I will contact you first. If you are sure that you are a reliable person, our group is willing to join the Immortal Tao Alliance and wait for your orders. That's right, we are actually waiting outside. Zhang Qingzeng said with a smile. The resurrected people present were all carefully looking at Yi Junlin. It would be a lie to say that they were not nervous when they saw this legendary big man today. As everyone knows, even a strong man like Niu Badian was killed by the other party. No point in saying more. Qinglian Sword Immortal's eyes swept across the audience, and said with dignity, "Fellow Taoists, why don't you pay your respects to Alliance Leader Yi?" In an instant, Zhang Qingzeng and the others were convinced, and they bowed and said respectfully, "We pay our respects to Alliance Leader Yi. We pay our respects to Alliance Leader Yi. We pay our respects to Alliance Leader Yi." Boom boom boom. The voices of the 3,000 immortal kings shook the earth and resounded across millions of miles, as if to announce this historic moment to all the people in the world. Chapter 372. C374 Qinglian Sword Immortal, isn't it okay for me to say it? Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the mission and being rewarded with Taoist sword intent. At the same time, a system prompt sounded in Yi Junlin's mind. Invisibly, Yi Junlin's whole body temperament has undergone some kind of transformation. Even the silver-white hair on the top of his head seems to have the intention of splitting the sky and the earth. His whole person instantly becomes sharp and sharp, making it difficult for the immortal kings present to look directly at him. Leader Yi, this is... Zhang Qingzeng and the others' mouths were dry and their hearts were beating wildly. It seemed as if they were seeing a peerless divine sword with sword energy soaring into the sky. It could sweep across all directions at any time and cut off everything in the world. Qinglian Sword Immortal's pupils trembled, and his heart felt like a turbulent wave. Having refined his heavenly grade sword intent for thousands of times, he felt a hint of the unattainable aura of swordsmanship. Could it be that Senior Yi has reached that point? If this is the case, the identity of the other party in ancient times is unimaginable. Haha, it's quite difficult to control. Yi Junlin's eyes showed strong interest, and then he immersed himself in exploring carefully, and finally gradually mastered this sudden Taoist sword intention. It didn't take long for the sharp aura on his body to restrain, and he was barely able to control it freely. Otherwise, it was difficult for people around him to look directly at him, or even get close to him. This is the domineering point of the Taoist sword intent. Just a ray of sword intent released from the outside has great power that cuts across mountains and mountains. Everyone, since you have chosen to join the Immortal Alliance, you are my friend, Yi Junlin. There are not many rules here. As a human being, happiness is the most important thing. Yi Junlin said with a smile. Leader Yi, you are really good at joking. Zhang Qingzeng and the others naturally didn't believe it, and they all thought it was the person in front of them who was making polite remarks. As the saying goes, there is no circle without rules. Since the Immortal Alliance is known as the #1 cultivating force, it must be hierarchical internally and have strict rules and regulations. But this time, there were so many of them. Because the reason why Yi Junlin established the Immortal Alliance was not to manage it well at all. The original intention of establishing it was just to get a reward. Leader Yi, from what I see, the most urgent task is to establish a code of conduct to the outside world, so as to restrain more resuscitators who act recklessly, eliminate all kinds of chaos, let them abide by order, and restore peace to the world. Qinglian Sword Immortal said in a deep voice. That's right. Zhang Qingzeng and the others nodded. The current situation in the Central Territory is in chaos. All kinds of monsters have emerged, causing chaos in many places. Seriously affecting the normal development of the Central Realm cultivation world. Some alien creatures with cruel personalities even breed human beings for blood food, and devour them regularly to satisfy their appetites. There are also those resuscitators with ulterior motives who have a firm grasp of the local cultivation resources and do not give ordinary monks a chance to advance, which is tantamount to forming a monopoly in disguise. If things go on like this, the strong will become stronger and the weak will become weaker, resulting in an extreme situation of insecurity in the world of cultivation. You must know that only by maintaining the normal ecological balance of the world of cultivation, more powerful monks will be born in the future. If this balance is broken, even the talented cultivators will not be able to stand out under such high-intensity suppression. After all, is there any strong person in this world who didn't start from the weakest stage and go up one step at a time? The main thing is, many powerful people have limited talents. Even if they master most of the cultivation resources, their cultivation may stagnate in the end. At this time, if you still occupy all kinds of benefits and don't give future generations a chance, it is as shameless as occupying a manhole and not taking a shit. As time goes by, the hidden dangers are endless. So, Only by formulating a comprehensive code of conduct to stop the majority of resuscitators from misbehaving and giving contemporary monks room to develop, will the entire world of cultivation prosper. No matter in the short term or in the long term, the success will be beneficial to the future. It makes sense. Even Empress Fuyao grew up from a weak period. Now it seems like a group of heroes are vying for hegemony, and it is a glorious era of great competition. In fact, she is top-heavy and will suffer the consequences sooner or later. Gubuli's eyes were deep and he said solemnly. Qinglian Sword Immortal's expression changed, and he held his hands in a respectful tone and said, "Is this senior the rumored follower of Empress Fuyao?" Seeing that Gubuli looked like a human and a dog, he naturally thought of the identity of the Tengu clan. Gubuli stroked his beard, his dog eyes showing admiration. "Fellow Taoist, you have good eyesight. I've been waiting for you, senior." Qinglian Sword Immortal and the others bowed their hands and showed deep respect for this former follower of Empress Fuyao. If this had been done in the past, this person's status would be higher than that of ordinary immortal emperors. There is an old saying that goes well. It's called beating a dog and it depends on the owner. And the other party's master is Empress Fuyao. Who can't be respectful to someone she meets? From this point of view, something really needs to be done. Yi Junline's eyes flickered and he said thoughtfully, "Let me ask you, how many resuscitators are currently active in the Central Territory in total?" Qinglian Sword Immortal frowned, thought for a moment and said, "I only know that the 3,000 fellow Taoists behind me can only occupy a small part of the entire circle, and the number of resuscitators active in the Central Realm exceeds 10,000. So much." The expressions of Hong Chenny and others changed. They thought that the group of resuscitators represented by Qinglian Sword Fairy, if not the mainstream, at least accounted for half of the country, right? As a result, only a small part. Many. Gubuli sneered and said, "The Kunlun realm back then had a territory of more than hundreds of millions. Countless races were prosperous and immortals could be seen everywhere. However, every ethnic group ranked in the middle reaches had at least double digits of immortal king-level experts. Even my Tengu clan had tens of thousands of immortal kings in its heyday. Do you think that's too much?" Hearing this, Hong Chenny and the others were choked and speechless. It was a knife in the ass and an eye-opener. Yes, the reason why we stayed in the Kunlun world was largely because the involution was too serious. We had no choice but to seal ourselves and find a way out in the new era. Zhang Qingzeng said with an awkward smile. Others all cast resentful glances. Can this be said? Understood. Yi Junline nodded. When he inherited Immortal Island, he saw the war scene in Kunlun realm against the allied forces from outside the territory through a projection. That scene was truly vast and boundless. The so-called Immortal King is in there, and even if he is just cannon fodder, he is as strong as the Immortal Emperor, and there is a risk of being killed. Therefore, Yi Junline did not have the slightest doubt about the information revealed by Gubuli. "Fellow Taoist Qinglian, from now on you will serve as the deputy leader. From now on, you will make all the precautions for the Immortal Alliance and the rules used to restrain the immortals. I will be responsible for reviewing them." Yi Junline thought about it carefully and still felt that the alliance should be maintained by reliable people. Ah, Qinglian Sword Immortal's eyes widened, and he almost suspected that his ears had heard wrongly. "You don't want to?" Yi Junline raised his eyebrows. "It's not that I don't want to. This is a great honor for me. The problem is..." "What is it? Can I still be worthy of such an important responsibility today?" Qinglian Sword Immortal's eyes were gloomy, and his voice became softer as he spoke. It was obvious that he lacked confidence. The great Sword Immortal who was so powerful in the Kunlun world in the past was so high-spirited and heroic, but now he has turned into such an unconfident look, which made everyone feel that fate was playing tricks on people, and they felt a sigh of relief. Yi Junline patted the old man in green shirt on the shoulder and said seriously, "If you have any difficulties, just tell me." "Why?" Qinglian Sword Immortal looked miserable and sighed. "Let's forget it, the past is too painful to look back on." "Then give me the money back. Leader Yi, please be patient and listen to what I have to say to you." Chapter 373. C375 Unfathomable. Fearing that his money bag would be in jeopardy, Qinglian Sword Immortal quickly told all his past stories. It turned out that the reason why Qinglian Sword Immortal was injured and his cultivation level regressed and was difficult to recover was because a long time ago, in order to gain greater opportunities, he went alone to explore the 100,000 Immortal Mountains, which was then known as a forbidden area. As a result, he encountered a group of strange alien creatures in it. They had some special talents and abilities, which could constantly steal immortal power to strengthen themselves in battle, which put Qinglian Sword Immortal in a passive situation. Finally, He fled in a hurry and was seriously injured. Because his body was eroded by a strange force, his cultivation level regressed from the 6th level of the Immortal Emperor to the 1st level of the Immortal King, and it was difficult to recover after so many years. During this period, Qinglian's Sword Immortal tried every means, even running to the Immortal Venerable who wanted to recruit him in the past, begging the other party to lend a hand. If successful, he would be willing to obey orders from then on and die for them. Unexpectedly, this strange power made several immortals shake their heads and say they could do nothing to help. Since then, Qinglian's Sword Immortal's life has fallen into decadence and confusion. He was disheartened and did not want to go to the immortal world to fight, so he planned to stay in Kunlun realm for the rest of his life, so he sealed himself and woke up at the right time. In fact, Qinglian's Sword Immortal still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. He hoped to find a way to save himself with the help of the revived Kunlun realm. But until now, seeing that the cultivation of the Taoist friends around him was recovering, while his own realm was still standing still, he felt more and more desperate and his heart was dead. Now, under Yi Junlian's friendly questioning, Qinglian's Sword Immortal told the truth. So Senior Qinglian was like this back then, gradually fading out of the public's view. Kanglang Jun said regretfully. Old Senior, you are confused. That is the legendary 100,000 Immortal Mountains. The alien creatures in it are definitely not so easy to provoke. Otherwise, why would it be called a forbidden area back then? Zhang Qingzang held a folding fan in his hand, pointing at the Green Lotus Sword Immortal and shaking his head excitedly. I was careless. Who knew that the alien creatures in the Immortal Mountain had such evil and weird abilities? The Green Lotus Sword Immortal said with a bitter face. As an immortal, any magic and moves must be activated by the immortal power in the body. And those alien creatures can actually absorb his immortal power from a distance. Even if he has a lot of it, it will be sucked dry. Not a drop left. This is also the reason for his final defeat. Wait, the 100,000 Immortal Mountains you are talking about are forbidden areas in ancient times. Yi Junlian caught this keyword and said with a look of surprise. Yes, it is said that there is a great opportunity to break through to the Immortal Venerable in the 100,000 Immortal Mountains. At first, many strong people wanted to go in to find out, but in the end, they all ended up in a miserable way, and basically never came back. This also led to the outside world calling it a forbidden area. Zhang Qingzang explained, Master, why does this sound so similar to the 100,000 Immortal Mountains in the East region? It can't be such a coincidence that it is the same place, right? Li Wuji secretly sent a voice message to Yi Junlian. Yi Junlian fell silent. If this is true, the East region will be in danger. But fortunately, before he set off, he placed the Immortal Island on the Misty Peak. If the aliens in the 100,000 Immortal Mountains want to make trouble, the creatures in the small courtyard may be able to stop them. However, it may also be a coincidence, or it may be that they don't interfere with each other. Taoist Qinglian, you just said that you have an injury in your body. It just so happens that my 4th apprentice Xiaohe is the best at healing injuries. It doesn't hurt to let him help you. Yi Junlian said. Hearing this, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal was stunned, and he kept muttering in his heart. Even those immortals back then couldn't do anything, how much ability can your apprentice have? Xiaohe, go and help him, it's so pitiful. Yi Junlian called. Yes, master. A dark-skinned boy with a bowl cut came over with a timid and nervous face. Junior brother, you can do it. Bai Xiaoxi waved her pink fist and cheered from behind. I'll try my best, said the big Mushroom King timidly. Zhang Qingzang and the others stared at the socially anxious boy, and their faces showed strange meanings. Even the Immortal Master was helpless with the injury, and a mere Immortal King wanted to cure it. Will the leader Yi be too confident in his apprentice? Hello, old man, please let me see the injury, I will try my best. The big Mushroom King came to the front of the Green Lotus Sword Immortal and said nervously. In fact, he was also very uncertain in his heart. Seeing this, Qinglian's Sword Immortal smiled bitterly and said, My friend, just make do with it. It doesn't matter if it can't be cured. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. From the beginning, Qinglian's Sword Immortal had no hope. The reason why he agreed to treat him was just because he didn't want to refuse other people's kindness. The great Mushroom King took a deep breath, pinched out the mysterious spell with his hands, and burst out with a green and blazing light, containing a strong breath of vitality. Swish, 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 his fingers flexibly swung, like playing music, dozens of green lines poured into the body of Qinglian's Sword Immortal, as if they were conducting preliminary infiltration and exploration. Qinglian's Sword Immortal's old face was moved. He could feel that this pot-covered boy was really capable in this regard. But if he wanted to cure his old illness, he still felt that there was little hope. The great Mushroom King's face was tight, and he carefully inspected the injury. Suddenly, he found the source of his injury. It was an extremely strange special force that was taking root stubbornly and slowly absorbing the immortal power in his body, turning it into nutrients for his continued existence. This is why the Green Lotus Sword Immortal has not recovered after so many years. Old man, please bear with it. I will help you get rid of this power, the great Mushroom King said seriously. After that, he continued to make seals with his hands. A surge of energy burst out from his body, his hair stood up, his eyes were filled with a deep green light, and the image of the Chaos Green Lotus appeared behind him. This is. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal was shocked. He vaguely felt that the Green Lotus Sword technique that he had comprehended throughout his life seemed to come from that Chaos Green Lotus. The next second, he felt a huge pain in his body. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal was sweating all over his head, and his old face was almost twisted, but his red eyes were full of excitement. At this time, he stared at the image of the Chaos Green Lotus, as if he wanted to see a mysterious thing from it. The big Mushroom King was also trying his best to treat it, with sweat running down his cheeks and the aroma of medicine filling the air. It took an incense stick of time. Under the effect of the Qingdi Chengshengju, the strange power rooted in the body of the Qinglian Sword Immortal was cleverly removed like pulling out silk from a cocoon. Done. The big Mushroom King was almost exhausted and staggered. When he was about to fall, Yi Junlin reached out and held him up. Xiaohei, you did a good job. Yi Junlin gave him an encouraging look. Thank you for the compliment, Master. The big Mushroom King was very happy in his heart. It felt so good to be recognized. Oh my god, it's really cured. Zhang Qingzeng and the others were full of surprise. The disciple of the Yi Alliance Master actually has such a great ability. Even the high and mighty Immortal Venerable couldn't handle it, but it was handled by a small Immortal Lord. If you look at it from another perspective, the Yi Alliance Master who has such a disciple is truly unfathomable. Chapter 374. C376 Junzunj. I'm just looking for trouble. Senior Qinglian, how do you feel now? Many people asked curiously. At this time, Qinglian Sword Immortal was motionless like an old monk in meditation, and his mind was still thinking about the Chaos Qinglian. Haha, so that's how it is. Suddenly, he came out of the state of enlightenment, his old face danced excitedly, and laughed wildly. Those who didn't know him would think he was an old lunatic. Everyone looked at each other. Yi Junlin looked at the pot-covered boy with a strange look in his eyes and whispered, Xiaohei, did you damage his brain? The big Mushroom King was stunned, his expression seemed to be about to cry, and he said aggrievedly, Master, I really don't know. He felt very wronged. Just when everyone was confused, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal gradually calmed down, looked at the great Mushroom King with an expression full of gratitude, and said with tears in his eyes. My friend, you are really a great doctor in the world. Not only did you cure my old illness, but you also improved the defects of the Green Lotus Sword technique from your vision of the technique. You are simply my savior. Please accept my respect. As he said this, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal bowed his hands and bowed his head in admiration. Now he is radiant and ruddy, as if he is many years younger, and even his blood and chi have become stronger. After the old illness in his body is cured, he will soon be able to recover to his original cultivation level, and even because of the accumulation of experience, his cultivation level will be further improved. The most important thing is that the Green Lotus Sword technique has been perfected, and its power is comparable to the supreme technique. It can be said that the Green Lotus Sword Immortal has been reborn and has become stronger than in his heyday. Old man, I am just following the order of my master. If you want to thank someone, thank him. The great Mushroom King waved his hand embarrassedly. Hearing this, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal's expression moved, and he looked at the handsome silver-haired young man, and bowed with respect. Leader Yi, I will be at your disposal from now on. From now on, my life is yours. After the contact just now, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal no longer had any doubts about Yi Junlin's identity. Not to mention the strong financial resources, just take this highly skilled apprentice as an example. This is definitely something that only the top boss can teach. His predecessor may be a great figure at the level of the Immortal Emperor. The more the Green Lotus Sword Immortal thought about it, the more he was in awe. Since your body has recovered, you are capable of taking on the position of deputy leader, right? Yi Junlin said with a smile. The other party has a high level of qualifications and is quite famous in the circle of resurrectors. He is the most suitable candidate. As for him, he just wanted to be a hands-off shopkeeper and just be responsible for keeping the situation under control. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal said in a deep voice, "Leader Yi, I will do my best to carry forward the Immortal Alliance." "That's great." Yi Junlin nodded with satisfaction. "We will see the deputy leader." Zhang Qingzeng and the others were overjoyed and clasped their fists to the high-spirited Green Lotus Sword Immortal. "Thank you for your kindness and support for the people. I have no choice but to do it." The Green Lotus Sword Immortal was extremely excited and couldn't wait to show his strength and spread the glory of the Immortal Alliance throughout the Kunlun realm. Just as the atmosphere in the hall was full of joy, a rumbling thunder suddenly came from outside. The clear sky dimmed in an instant, and the air of killing was filled for thousands of miles. Swish! A majestic murderous intent locked onto the Tingfeng Tower, and the temperature inside the building suddenly dropped to freezing point. Many people felt cold all over their bodies, and their hair stood on end. "How dare you? Who is so bold?" Hong Chenny flashed to the corridor and shouted at the outside. "Haha, it seems that someone is here to challenge us." Yi Junlin thought of something, and a meaningful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Rumble. The dark black fog swept in like a tide, mixed with countless terrifying red lightning, which was extremely visually shocking. Among them, there was a sinister and strange laugh, which was frightening. "Who is this monster who dares to play tricks?" Qinglian's Sword Immortal looked solemn, sensing a terrible breath from the black fog, as if there was an almighty monster staring at him. "I didn't expect that so many Taoist friends came to the appointment. It seems that the human race surnamed Yi is very appealing." The thick black fog dispersed, and a middle-aged man wearing a black cloak and a dark purple ancient crown on his head stepped out. His pupils were as black as ink, and his smile was weird and sinister. "He is the Toad Venerable." A resurrected person who knew him exclaimed. "I didn't expect that this monster who takes human lives lightly is here too." Another companion gritted his teeth. "It is said that some time ago, this monster devoured a large number of human beings crazily, and slaughtered several dojo in a row. It can be said that there are complaints everywhere. Yes, some fellow Taoists couldn't stand it, and they united to kill this monster, but the other party was very cunning, and his whereabouts were unpredictable and elusive. He disappeared for several months before, but who knew that he would appear now? Everyone should be careful, there seems to be some changes in his body, and there are strange things everywhere." The revivers present were talking about it, and their eyes were full of surprise and suspicion when they looked at the Toad Venerable. "This damn beast," Qinglian's Sword Immortal frowned. The other party was also a fairy emperor-level strongman in ancient times, but he was notorious and a big disaster. Now he dares to appear openly, he must have something to rely on. Toad Venerable sneered. "My purpose of coming here this time is very simple, that is to replace the man surnamed Yi and become the leader of the Immortal Tao Alliance." Boom. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole audience was in an uproar. "HMPH, what kind of toad are you? You are worthy of the position of leader of the Immortal Alliance." Hong Chenny flashed into the sky, with the purple flame wings behind him spread out, his face was covered with frost, and his eyes were murderous. Junzun Toad was unhappy, and said with a dark face, "What's wrong with toads? Toads have to be inferior to humans. The blood in my body is much stronger than you lowly human race. When I become the leader of the Immortal Alliance and rule the 4 seas and 8 wildernesses, I will regularly devour a group of young human races. In my eyes, you are just blood food to satisfy my appetite." Many human immortal kings were angry, and their eyes were almost spitting out anger. Junzun Toad's tone was too arrogant, causing public anger. "Bold monster, I am the deputy leader of the Immortal Alliance. If you want to sit on the position of leader, wait and ask my sword first if it agrees." Quote. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal could no longer bear it, and he raised his right hand to make a sword gesture, then he combined his 2 fingers and slashed it fiercely. Swish! Tens of thousands of surging green sword chi shot out, interweaving into a green lotus pattern, filled with boiling heavenly sword intent. Interesting, Venerable Toad raised his eyebrows, surprised by the strength displayed by this human fairy king. Swish! He raised his hand and slapped it fiercely, and tens of thousands of green sword chi were instantly defeated and shattered. HMPH. Quote. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal couldn't hold back his face, so he took a step forward, and the long sword on his back flew into the sky like an angry dragon, and was unsheathed. In the eyes of everyone, after the old man with white hair and a youthful face held the long sword firmly in his hand, he began to perform the mysterious sword technique. The sword intent around him was boiling like the sea, and a large amount of green sword energy was intertwined. Soon a green lotus suddenly formed, and the petals slowly bloomed while turning. The ninth style of the Green Lotus Sword technique, Lotus Transformation. Quote. The sleeves of the Green Lotus Sword immortal fluttered, his eyes were like lightning, and he shouted. Boom! The Green Lotus was constantly changing, visible to the naked eye, gathering endless sword energy and sword intent, and the power contained was madly superimposed, covering the Toad Venerable. This move can kill the immortal emperor. Even if Niu Badian came back to life, he might die in the face of this move. This old man is so powerful, Li Wuji was shocked and muttered. The supreme swordsmanship plus the perfect heavenly sword intent, this power is absolutely shocking. Hong Chenny, who wanted to take action, was also shocked by the opponent's performance, watching the huge green lotus pressing down. The deputy leader is mighty. Zhang Qingzheng and the others shouted excitedly, as if they saw the legendary sword immortal showing his unparalleled style again. It turned out to be you, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Quote. Feeling the oppression that enveloped him, Toad Venerable showed a hint of surprise in his eyes, which was then replaced by murderous intent. He grinned and said. In the past, this Venerable would never dare to compete with you, but now, times have changed. As he said this, he casually raised his hand and grabbed it. A large black handprint emerged in the void, surrounded by endless black lightning, filled with the breath of destroying the world, and then fell fiercely on the Green Lotus. Bang! The explosion sounded. The majestic energy airflow swept in all directions, blowing up billowing dust and smoke all over the sky. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal was struck by lightning, his old face turned liver-colored, and he couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with disbelief. You actually. Chapter 375. C377 Toad comments on humans. Qinglian Sword Immortal felt a huge psychological gap. After all, the power of this sword move is enough to kill ordinary immortal emperors. Even a strong man like Niu Badian will most likely fall. As a result, Venerable Toad casually raised his hand and grabbed it, and destroyed the sword move he was proud of. What does this mean? The opponent's strength is far stronger than Niu Badian. Interesting, too interesting, to be able to achieve this level in the realm of Immortal King, this Venerable is willing to call you the strongest human Immortal King. Venerable Toad's eyes flashed coldly, but because of this, you must die. I will never let a strong man like you grow up. The move of Qinglian Sword Immortal just now made Venerable Toad feel a great threat. If the other party is allowed to recover his cultivation, it is hard to imagine how much harm it will cause to him. Therefore, this person will definitely die. Evil beast, Qinglian Sword Immortal's face was extremely ugly, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. It is no exaggeration to say that the supreme sword move almost exhausted all his strength. Now he had no room to resist. Hong Chenny frowned. He wanted to take action, but after seeing this scene, he knew that he had nothing to do. Yi, come out and die immediately. This Venerable may be able to spare the lives of others. Venerable Toad sneered in a high-handed manner. He was very confident because he felt that he had an absolute advantage and there was no possibility of losing. This damn Toad. Everyone looked ugly. Go Bully sighed and looked at the silver-haired young man, thinking, see, this is the price of becoming the leader. You will face more challenges from powerful people, and this is just the beginning. He could see that the extraordinary thing about Venerable Toad should be that he had obtained some major opportunity before, and his strength became unimaginably terrifying. As the recovery of the world enters the later stage, there will be more and more such creatures who gain power overnight. Haha, you don't hide well, but dare to come and make trouble. Even the King of Hell would shake his head when he sees you. In the crowd, Yi Junlin walked out slowly with his hands behind his back, with a playful smile on his face. Seeing this handsome young man with long white hair down to his waist, Toad Venerable instinctively felt a hint of danger, and narrowed his eyes and said. Are you the so-called Senior Yi? The initiator of the Immortal Alliance? That's right. Yi Junlin cleared his throat and said in a deep voice. Evil beast, because you have killed innocent people indiscriminately in the central region and committed evil, today I, as the leader of the Immortal Alliance, will execute you on the spot to set an example. The clear voice revealed a sense of majesty, which echoed between heaven and earth for a long time, as if the God King was judging. The leader is mighty. Zhang Qingzheng and others were so excited that their blood boiled, and they looked at the back with reverence. Venerable Toad laughed in anger. You are so arrogant, do you think you are invincible? This Venerable can take your life now. Suddenly, two huge toad palm prints came together, surrounded by boiling black evil spirits. This vast sense of oppression alone made the Immortal Kings unbearable and terrified. Very good, it's my favorite part again. Yi Junlin smiled playfully. Ding, the host is detected to be attacked by an enemy of the 6th level of the Immortal Emperor. Now the passive effect of being stronger when facing a strong enemy is triggered, and the cultivation of the 7th level of the Immortal Emperor is obtained. Closing square bracket. In his mind, the system prompt sounded. Boom. Yi Junlin had a stronger momentum bursting out, his long silver white hair fluttering, and his eyes contained a dazzling fairy light, which made it difficult to look directly at him. Then, he waved his sleeves, shaking out an unparalleled vast power, soaring away like an angry dragon, and forcibly dispersing the 2 toad palm prints. What? The look in Toad Venerable's eyes revealed a look of surprise. I thought that his cultivation was far ahead, but I didn't expect that the other party was even better. Human race, don't be complacent, even if your cultivation is higher than mine, it can't change anything, at most I can help you struggle a few times. The Toad Venerable was fearless, and a black immortal wheel appeared behind him, with a dark glow, emitting a strange and cold breath. Shua, the immortal wheel turned 7 times quickly. In an instant, the vast power of 700 ordinary immortal emperors all emerged in Toad Venerable's body. Boom, the Toad Venerable carried the dark immortal wheel on his back, and a domineering aura rose to the sky. His eyes burst out with a terrifying blood light that split the sky, and he grinned, "You can't beat me." There are very few immortal emperors who can reach this level of the immortal wheel 7 turns. So, he is confident that with the surge in power, he can crush Yi Junlin next. Yi Junlin was calm and collected, as if he was watching a clown, and said, "Life is so boring, toads commenting on humans. As a toad, do you deserve it?" There was a strong sense of sarcasm in his words. This made everyone behind him laugh, because this was really in line with the identity of the Toad Venerable. The tense and depressing atmosphere at the scene was instantly relieved. Hearing this, the self-esteem of the Toad Venerable was hurt, and he said angrily, "What do you know about the human race? I am the most noble toad in the world. And you will pay a painful price for your words and deeds just now." Then, the Toad Venerable flashed away, and the Toad Palm prints were like a tidal wave, containing an extremely powerful force. Each palm was enough to kill the Immortal Emperor, which was very terrifying. Ridiculous. Yi Junlin shook his head, clenched his fists and simply waved them away, without the slightest smell of fireworks but containing great terror. Just because it contains the 9th grade immortal power. Boom 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 boom, a series of dense explosions, the crisscrossing toad palm prints were broken. Toad Venerable flew backwards hundreds of feet, then barely stabilized his body, spitting black blood, his face full of disbelief. How is this strength possible? Because Yi Junlin's control over the 9th grade immortal power is stronger than when he just got it, so when that punch was thrown, few people could see the clues. In the eyes of Qinglian Sword Immortal and others, Yi Junlin just simply swung his fist and knocked the arrogant Toad Venerable away. It's so terrifying. Hey, you, why are you a toad? The big black bull was killed before and I can eat it, but I really can't eat someone like you. Yi Junlin stepped on the void, flashed as fast as the wind, and sighed at the embarrassed Toad Venerable. Toad Venerable was so angry that he was fuming. How much do you despise the toad? Don't go too far. Kill. The Toad Venerable roared, and a rolling black mist burst out of his body, and countless red lightnings intertwined. A cold and ferocious aura swept out, making the cultivators of the entire Taishuan state feel as if they were falling into the abyss, and they were scared to death. The Toad Venerable showed his true form. It was seen that its mountain-like back was densely covered with spikes, its head was like a lizard, its eyes were fierce, its fangs were dripping with sulfuric acid like saliva, and it had 2 short arms in front of it. Behind its buttocks was a heavy black tail, and its whole body was covered with black scales, with a strong metallic feel. Damn, your ancestor was Godzilla, Yi Junlin said in surprise. He was very surprised by the change of the Toad Venerable. He thought that some kind of blood mutation had occurred, which was why he had such strength. No wonder he dared to come all the way to challenge. Damn human race, let me show you my strongest killing move. This monster, which looks like Godzilla, has fierce eyes, and gathers endless dark red energy in its mouth. Then it opens its mouth and sprays out a destructive beam of light that shatters the void. This destructive dark red beam of light has unimaginable power. If it falls directly to the ground, it can instantly evaporate all living things within a radius of 10,000 miles. Not good. Everyone was shocked. Interesting. Yi Junlin sneered a few times, his eyes closed first, and then suddenly opened, and his body was full of the momentum of a peerless sword. This momentum is unstoppable and wants to cut off everything. Chapter 376. C-378 Slay the Demon 8,000 miles away. Kyla, a golden flying sword, with its everlasting dazzling light, suddenly rose like the sun rising in the east, blazing incomparably. Yi Junlin raised his hand to hold the Kengyuan sword, raised the sword above his head and slashed it down. Whoa, the extremely brilliant sword light tore through the void, shattered the sky, and bombarded away with infinite power. Like cutting tofu with a sharp blade, it broke through the dark red light beam without any stagnation. The long sword energy swept across like a hurricane, and the terrifying sword intention boiled like the sea, revealing a mysterious Taoist charm. Venerable Toad's face was full of horror, his eyes were full of disbelief, and he lost his voice. How is this possible? This sight was too shocking. The silver-haired young man just swung his sword, and it seemed to have the boundless power to cut off the avenue. The breath of destruction that he was so proud of had no threat at all. It instantly collapsed and disappeared. No, I have to get away. Venerable Toad's scalp was numb, goosebumps appeared all over his body, and his heart was filled with the danger of death. At the critical moment, he moved his huge body to avoid it. Poof! The lower half of the body was cut open abruptly, and black blood poured out like a waterfall, pouring on the ground and releasing hot gas. Ah! Lord Toad screamed in pain. In an instant, the winner was determined. Yi Junlin stood with a sword in his hand, with long snow-white hair flying in the air, a handsome face, and the sky was light and windy. The terrifying sword intent lingered all over his body. Every ray of sword intent contained great power, and even the surrounding void was unbearable, causing ripples. Leader Yi. Seeing this scene, the Qinglian sword immortal was as shocked as a mortal seeing a miracle. His lips wriggled a few times, and he said with difficulty, he actually possesses the legendary Taoist sword intent. You must know that he is also a sword cultivator with a strong understanding. He had gone through a lot of hard work to understand the heavenly sword intention, and spent his whole life to hone it to the perfect level. It can be said that it is quite difficult. However, the strongest Taoist sword intention made Qinglian sword immortal feel helpless, and it was still difficult to touch the threshold. This feeling is like that of an ordinary person standing on the ground and looking up at the vast sky, feeling how insignificant he is. I thought that the beings who could comprehend the Taoist sword intent had long since disappeared in the Kunlun realm, but I never thought that one day I would be able to see them with my own eyes. Leader Yi is the real great sword immortal. Qinglian sword immortal's eyes filled with tears, shedding 2 lines of turbid tears, and said emotionally. Hiss, how many tricks does that guy have up his sleeve? Guguli's eyes widened and he took a deep breath, obviously shocked by this shocking sword. Even in the golden age of Kunlun realm, there were only a few sword cultivators who could comprehend the Taoist sword intent. In the end, they all achieved the realm of immortal emperor and proclaimed themselves the sword emperor. This kind of immortal emperor is often very valuable, because it has strong lethality, and is best at defeating all kinds of magic with one sword. Now, seeing Yi Junlin displaying Taoist sword intent, Go Buli's understanding of him has been greatly refreshed again. As expected, he is the one favored by heaven, so terrifying. Now, the toad is going to turn into a dead toad. Li Wuji said excitedly. Haha, this is what happens when you walk on a narrow road. Hong Chenny sneered. Once upon a time, he almost made a big mistake, but fortunately, he found his way back and soared to great heights again. No one knows better than him how terrifying his master is. It's a big joke to think of replacing a stinky toad with a chance encounter. At this time, Lord Toad, who was seriously injured, was filled with fear. He regretted it. I regret coming here to show off. If he had known that Senior Yi was as powerful as the rumors, he would never have dared to get into trouble at this juncture. This person is invincible and must escape. The thought flashed across his mind, and Lord Toad endured the severe pain caused by the injury, burning the demon elixir to cast his innate secret method. Swish swish swish. In an instant, this huge Godzilla-like monster suddenly split into millions of small clones at a speed visible to the naked eye, and scattered like a black tide. A miniature version of Lord Toad was among them, running away desperately with an expression full of fear. I have struggled to survive in this new era, and now I have some signs of taking off. I don't want to die in this way. Even after this serious injury, his cultivation will seriously decline and his strength will be much lower than before, but as long as there is a glimmer of hope, he will be able to regain his strength. After all, who can say for sure what will happen in the future? With a stubborn belief, Lord Toad directly launched a great escape, and his desire to survive reached its peak. The sudden change caught everyone by surprise. Oh no, that evil beast is trying to escape. Qinglian Sword Immortal's expression changed. The question is, where is the toad's body? Now we have no way to start. The Immortal Kings were extremely anxious. Escape. Can you escape? Seeing the scene of millions of clones running away, Yi Junlin was stunned at first, and then said mockingly. Aha! He was seen making a seal with one hand, and the Kangyuan sword made a buzzing sound, and then turned into a bright golden rainbow and shot away. Let me see, where is your little toad? Yi Junlin closed his eyes, raised his fingers in front of him, and had a faint smile on his lips. He has an invincible sword heart and extremely sharp perception. He can expand the search range through the flying sword, and any subtle changes cannot escape his capture. Soon, he locked onto a familiar breath. Yi Junlin opened his eyes and said playfully, "Oh, I found you." Chila, the flying sword turned around and rushed forward, and the sword body emitted a scorching light, as dazzling as the sun. Because the Taoist sword intent covered by the sword body was too powerful, the void was distorted wherever it passed. At the same time, the incomplete Toad Venerable had already fled 8,000 miles away. He looked like a mini Godzilla, with blood all over his body and a weak breath. Feeling that he was far away from danger, the Toad Venerable's weak face showed a hint of pride. The escape method just now was his talent for survival. Although the extra clones seemed to be huge in number and had little combat power, they were a great weapon to confuse the enemy and interfere with the enemy's judgment. In this regard, the Toad Venerable even began to imagine the scene of Yi Junlin being helpless. Mr. Yi, you are awesome this time. There is an old saying in the human race, which is that if you keep the green mountains, you will not worry about firewood. This Venerable will retreat first, and I will avenge this one day. The Toad Venerable said with resentment on his face and gnashing his teeth. The next second, the sharp sound of a flying sword breaking through the wind sounded behind him, like a death knell, which frightened the Toad Venerable so much that his soul was trembling and he was extremely terrified. Don't be like this, I was just joking. Give me a chance. The sonic boom rumbled, and the murderous intent was approaching rapidly like a thorn in the flesh. The Toad Venerable looked like he was about to cry, his faith completely collapsed, and he shouted hysterically. Senior Yi, spare my life. As soon as the voice fell, a brilliant sword light pierced straight in, and the majestic sword intent burst out, drowning the tiny Toad Venerable like the sea. Ah! The scream contained deep despair and fear of death. Soon, the world fell into silence. After killing the target, the Kangyuan sword turned the sword head back to the original path, like a gust of wind blowing by. Everyone waited anxiously, unwilling to see the Toad Venerable escape. Kanglang Jun seemed calm and composed, waving his hand and said, "Everyone, Senior Yi's sword is very accurate, that toad will definitely not escape." Qinglian's sword immortal asked suspiciously, "How do you know?" In his opinion, the Toad Venerable turned into millions of clones and fled in all directions, which was a very superb skill. Even if Yi Junlin mastered the Tao-level sword intent, let alone how difficult it was to kill it all at once, even if he wanted to find the real body from it, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. How do I know? Kanglang Jun touched his nose and smiled awkwardly. Don't ask, asking is just a blind guess. There is only one reason, he had experienced Yi Junlin's special ability before. Kanglang Jun still remembers that he used a secret method to escape into the river, thinking that he could escape with the advantage of the river that leads in all directions. Who knew that no matter where he escaped, there was always a flying sword following behind him. Fortunately, he finally surrendered, otherwise his butt would be broken. Therefore, Kanglang Jun determined that Toad Venerable would definitely not be able to escape this wave. He will definitely die. At this time, someone exclaimed, "Look, many clones have disappeared." This discovery attracted everyone's attention. It's true, many clones have disappeared. The Qinglian sword immortal, whose spiritual consciousness was released, showed a look of surprise and doubt on his old face after seeing this scene. Could it be that Toad Venerable has already? It's not just him who thinks so, everyone has this idea. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, countless awe-inspiring eyes focused on the young man. It seems that the evildoer has been brought to justice. Zhang Qingzheng said excitedly. Alliance Master Yi is invincible. Get rid of a great scourge for our cultivation world. Everyone applauded excitedly. Such an exquisite sword-controlling technique, they will never be able to learn it in this lifetime. It's done, go back and have tea. Yi Junlin habitually brushed his sleeves, took away the flying sword that returned, and then put his hands behind his back and walked back to Tingfeng Tower calmly. From beginning to end, it was like doing a trivial thing. What is this called? While listening to the wind in the small building and chatting, he killed the monster 8,000 miles away and returned. Chapter 377. C379 Occupational Discrimination. Everyone who witnessed Yi Junlinshan's operation was in admiration, especially the female immortal kings present, whose beautiful eyes shone with brilliance and their hearts were filled with admiration. If Leader Yi wants to secretly set the rules for them on a whim, should they scream or not? Don't get it wrong, they didn't want to shout for help, but they shouted ah. Apparently, with this incident, the hearts of the people within the Immortal Alliance will be more stable. Because they all saw with their own eyes that this leader has absolute strength. You can't go wrong if you follow him in the future. Next, everyone was eating and drinking in Tingfeng Tower, and giving some advice to Qinglian Sword Immortal. As the deputy leader of the alliance, Qinglian Sword Immortal has gathered together the leaders of hundreds of schools to list a series of rules in order to end the current chaotic situation and restrain those resurrected people who do evil. The session went off pleasantly and easily. As for Yi Junlin, who is the leader of the alliance, he has become the hands-off shopkeeper. His role is nothing more than to calm down the crowd and gather people's hearts. It looks like he is lying flat on the seat, but in fact it is like a needle that fixes the sea. Eating peach cake, Bai Xiaoxi ran over excitedly on her short legs holding a plate with peach cakes of various cute shapes placed on it. Sister, you are so cute, a female fairy king with a hot figure leaned down to reveal a seductive spring color, and said with a charming smile. Sister, do you want to eat the peach cake made by Shushu? Bai Xiaoxi's eyes were bright, she picked up the plate and raised it above her head, and said softly. Okay, the female fairy king picked up a heart-shaped piece of peach cake and put it to her mouth to taste. The texture was crispy and full of milky aroma. Her taste buds seemed to be greatly satisfied. She felt an inexplicable feeling of happiness filling her heart. A look of surprise appeared on his face. Oh my god, how did you do that? The female fairy king was very surprised. She thought it was just an ordinary cookie, but she didn't expect that it contained secrets that could affect people's mood. This is a special biscuit invented by Shushu. You will feel good when you eat it. Bai Xiaoxi said seriously. It's amazing, the female fairy king exclaimed in admiration, and then quickly called her best friend to come over and taste this magical cookie. A group of women gathered around and ate the peach cakes made by Bai Xiaoxi, with happy faces on their faces. After eating, they finally remembered the business and pulled Bai Xiaoxi to ask questions. Sister, I heard that you are the disciple of Alliance Leader Yi. Yeah, what's wrong? Then sister asked you, what is Leader Yi's usual hobbies? Wait a minute, let me answer my question first. Does Leader Yi like women who are better developed? I'm also curious, do you like pure ones? Or do you like more showy ones? Hey, ask everyone, don't crowd me. Who stepped on my feet? Poor Bai Xiaoxi, who had never seen such a scene, was being pulled around in confusion. Fairies, maybe you can come and ask me. I am also Master's disciple. Li Wuji coughed a few times, stepped forward and said seriously. He had a little expectation in his heart and wanted to enjoy the feeling of being surrounded. Come on, Mr. Li, I can't wait. Result, a woman saw the sword on his waist, with a look of disgust on her face. Sisters, don't get close to him, he is a swordsman. Sword Shu, then we'd better not have contact with him. Yes, all the men who practice swordsmanship have some. All the women were whispering and hiding far away, fearing that Li Wuji would get close to them. Li Wuji, he really didn't expect that such a chain of contempt existed in ancient times, let alone that the identity of sword cultivator was so unpopular. Why, are our sword cultivators eating your rice, or digging your ancestral graves? Li Wuji was so angry that he stepped forward with angrily eyes and asked, Hey, you'd better explain why we sword cultivators are so discriminated against. Seeing that Li Wuji was very angry, a woman in a blue dress braced herself and explained weakly. Because in our period, sword cultivators were not lewd with women. As the saying goes, there is no woman in your heart, and you are a god of nature when you draw your sword. That's what you sword cultivators said. In the past, anyone who delayed your sword practice would have to be chased and chopped. Quote. Hear the words. Li Wuji's face turned green. Good guy, so the sword cultivator's reputation is so bad. On the other hand, sword cultivators are favored by countless people of the opposite sex, and are most likely to have a good career in love. And those who practice swordsmanship are destined to have no girls. It seems that I am destined to be alone in this life. Ha ha ha, interesting, so interesting. Not far away, Hong Chenny smiled and clapped her hands, tears of laughter flowing from the corners of her eyes. Seeing Li Wuji defeated was one of his great pleasures in the sect. You're laughing, do you think I care? A truly strong man doesn't need a woman. He knows everything. Li Wuji said with a dark face. Oh, Hong Chenyi said with a meaningful expression, could it be that I can be self-sufficient secretly? Li Wuji's expression changed slightly, he waved his hands repeatedly and said. I am a sword cultivator, I don't understand what you are saying. Seeing this, Hong Chenyi cast a look of disdain and sneered, just pretend. At this time, seeing Hong Chenyi's appearance, all the female fairy kings were amazed and couldn't help but want to come over and get close to her. Fairy, are you also the disciple of Alliance leader Yi? Moment, the smile on Hong Chenyi's face disappeared, but it moved to Li Wuji's face. This time, it was Li Wuji's turn to laugh out loud. He was holding his stomach while laughing, pointing at Hong Chenyi and saying, I'm asking you a question. Fairy. Hong Chenyi's face was dark, I don't want to communicate with ignorant people, so stay away from me. While speaking, he also deliberately released a sense of oppression. Hi, excuse me. These female fairy kings were frightened and quickly stayed away from this evil star. Because they felt that there was a huge strength gap between the two sides. At the same time, Hong Chiba was also labeled as having a weird temper. Suddenly, there was a demonic aura coming from outside Tingfeng Tower, and a demonic wind was rolling in. Hong Chenyi's eyes flashed coldly, and she sneered, is there another evildoer who wants to cause trouble? It's not over yet, I have to chop it to death. Li Wuji pulled out his long knife and rushed out menacingly with the knife in his hand. Fellow Taoist, calm down. A ball of cyan demonic wind dispersed, revealing the figure of the Qingyang Old Immortal. When he saw Li Wuji raising his knife to chop, he raised his hands in a panic and shouted. Huh, still a sheep. Li Wuji grinned, I just want to have a mutton feast. I'll take you to senior sister Bai to deal with it. Hearing this, Old Immortal Qingyang couldn't help but think of Niu Badian's fate. He was so frightened that his scalp almost exploded and his whole body felt cold. He resisted the urge to turn around and run away, and said with a mournful face, fellow Taoist, I don't have any ill intentions in coming here. I'm here to meet the current leader of the Immortal Alliance. Oh, Li Wuji raised his eyebrows and looked up and down at the humble Qingyang Old Immortal, feeling somewhat convinced in his heart. Master said that no matter what race, as long as they come with friendship, they are all guests. Come in, thank you, fellow Taoist. Old Immortal Qingyang breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. This time, he came with great courage. He was also afraid of being caught in a tiger's mouth, but he was even more afraid of being liquidated afterwards. With his keen intuition, Qingyang Laoshan felt that after the Immortal Alliance was established, there would definitely be a series of big moves. He did not want to live a life of intrigue, which was contrary to his original intention of staying in the Kunlun world. Moreover, he was the leader of the Golden State Demon Clan, and he was even more afraid of being involved in the whirlpool of the fight, so he was eager to come over and show weakness, hoping to become familiar with the Yi leader. Master, a demon tribe is coming to see you. Li Wuji shouted. Everyone looked at him with scrutiny. Old Immortal Qingyang walked in the middle and felt the dense gazes on both sides. He felt panicked in his heart. At the same time, he had a new understanding of the current scale of the Immortal Alliance. There are actually thousands of resuscitators on site. If this force is united, they can really accomplish earth-shattering things. I am indeed right, the Old Immortal Qingyang secretly rejoiced. Hey, an old sheep. Yi Junlin sat at the main seat, put down his teacup, and looked at Old Fairy Qingyang with squinted eyes. Immediately, Old Fairy Qingyang panicked and trembled with fear. He always felt that the other person's eyes were looking at food. Palace Master of Qingyang Dao Palace, pay your respects to Leader Yi. Qingyang Old Immortal bowed his hands and saluted. Tell me, what are you here for? Warm reminder, if the answer dissatisfies me, just wait until it is served. Yi Junlin said directly. Serve, serve. Qingyang Old Immortal suddenly raised his head. When he came into contact with the young man's eyes that contained profound meaning, he immediately understood everything and felt extremely bitter in his heart. How wonderful that I am a human being. Chapter 378. C380 My rules are the rules. Afterwards, Old Immortal Qingyang suppressed his throbbing and said cautiously, Leader Yi, I'm here to clarify the misunderstanding. Oh, please elaborate. Yi Junlin's eyes flickered, thinking that he had never interacted with the other party, so there was no misunderstanding. Although the 10,000 Demons Alliance was established on my territory that day, I was completely forced by Niu Badian. In fact, I wanted to draw a clear line with him. However, Niu Badian was too cruel, so I had no choice but to do so. I'm on his side, but I swear to God, I never had any thoughts of going against you before. As he spoke, Qingyang Old Immortal bowed his hands and begged in a pleading tone, I hope Alliance leader Yi can learn from this. Yi Junlin understood in his heart, and looked at Qinglian's sword immortal with questioning eyes. Qinglian's sword immortal said solemnly, "Leader, it is indeed true. After investigation, we found that before Niu Badian was promoted to Immortal Emperor, the first place he went to was Qingyang Dao Palace, so we have reason to suspect that there must be something behind this. There is this old sheep who is adding fuel to the flames and using some ulterior and special means. Humph, I'm here to plead guilty now. I'm telling you, it's too late." Zhang Qingzeng looked at old Immortal Qingyang and sneered. Feeling the hostile gazes gathered around him, old Immortal Qingyang was so frightened that he broke into a cold sweat and cried out sadly, "It's unfair, I was forced to do so." Then tell me honestly, does Niu Badian's ability to recover quickly before have anything to do with you? If so, what method was used? Qinglian's sword immortal took a step forward and asked. Many resuscitators present are also very concerned about this issue. After all, everyone wants to take shortcuts these days. This, old Immortal Qingyang hesitated, as if he had something to hide, because this was his biggest secret. Originally, Niu Badian was killed and there was no second insider in the world. Now he was being questioned on the spot. If he told this secret, wouldn't a lot of people know about it? Seeing that the old Immortal Qingyang was unwilling to tell the truth, Yi Junlin turned to look at Bai Shaoxi and asked. Shaoxi, tell me how to make roasted whole lamb more delicious. Hearing this question about food, Bai Shaoxi suddenly became interested. She lowered her head and clasped her fingers, and introduced in a clear and childish voice. First, slaughter the sheep, scald it all over the body with hot water and clean the hair. Take out the internal organs and scrape them clean. Use a knife to cut a few small incisions in the thick meat of the sheep's abdominal cavity and the inside of the hind legs. Put chopped green onions, ginger slices, Sichuan peppercorns, aniseed, and minced fennel into the lamb's belly, and rub it with refined salt to taste. Use seasonings and salt to taste on the knife edge on the inside of the lamb leg. Insert the sheep's tail into the abdomen with an iron pick, place the chest on top, hang the skin with iron hooks on the limbs, brush with soy sauce, sugar color, and sesame oil, and then bake until the sheepskin is yellow and red and crispy, and the meat is tender. Ready to use. Hear the words. Everyone's eyes looked strange. Li Wuji rubbed his chin and said, "Good guy, I almost want to eat after hearing this." After hearing the entire description of how to roast a whole lamb, the Qingyang old fairy was so frightened that his legs became weak and he collapsed directly to the ground. He felt that he was like a sheep in a pack of wolves and would be carved up and eaten. Gubuli looked sympathetic, remembering that when he heard about the practice of dog meat, he was also very scared, fearing that the dog's life would be lost. Have mercy on me, I'm old, the meat is woody and smelly, and it doesn't taste good at all. Qingyang Laoshan began to depreciate himself crazily. Who knows, Yi Junlin said seriously, really? I don't believe it. Qingyang Laoshan. Soon, the old Immortal Qingyang, whose psychological defense was defeated, was like a deflated rubber ball, and he had no choice but to tell the inside story. Everyone looked strange when they learned about the function of the ram's horns. What made them even more speechless was that Niu Badian, who was arrogant, actually had a cuckold plot. As expected of a Tauren. I admire him very much. Yi Junlin felt greatly shocked inside. It seems that the Yu named Xiaomei is the big winner behind this relationship. This kind of sheep must taste very sexy, right? No wonder the horn on your head is cracked like this. It turns out that it was damaged by that Tauren. Yi Junlin joked. The old Immortal Qingyang sneered. Leader Yi, you are so funny. Then he thought of something and begged bitterly, can you help me keep this secret? If it is leaked, I will not have a good life. Yi Junlin waved his hand. Don't worry, your horns are only useful to the demon clan. We are too lazy to help you promote it, and it is not good for us. As for you, since you were forced, let's just write off all the previous accounts. Old Immortal Qingyang's eyes filled with excitement, and he choked with sobs. Thank you, Alliance Leader Yi, for knowing everything. I'm very grateful. Seeing this, everyone did not continue to attack, so this matter was considered over. Since you are the first ancient demon clan to surrender and can serve as a pioneer and model, you should set an example when you return. From now on, all immortal-level creatures from all races must be under the jurisdiction of the Immortal Alliance, including the current resuscitators because... Yi Junlin paused and said in a deep voice, my rules are the rules. The sound contained an unquestionable meaning and a deep sense of oppression. In the minds of everyone, this young man's image is infinitely higher, almost as high as the sky. Old Fairy Qingyang's scalp was numb. Yes. Do you have anything else? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows when he saw that the other party was still not moving. Leader Yi, I want to report an ancient demon. It has done evil in the Central Territory and devoured countless living beings. If this demon is not eliminated, it will be unforgivable. Old Immortal Qingyang mustered up his courage and shouted risklessly. Who? The Toad Venerable. Hearing these 3 words, the expressions on everyone's faces became subtle. Do you have a grudge against it? Yi Junlin asked curiously. The old Immortal Qingyang gritted his teeth and explained, this monster has a bad reputation and is notorious in our circle. I am afraid that it will gain power in the future and the world will be even more devastated. If it can be killed as soon as possible, it will be a great thing for the cultivation world. In fact, the most important thing is that the Toad Venerable will swallow everything when he is ruthless, even his own kind. The old Immortal Qingyang is afraid that the other party will come to the Golden State and devour the lives of the millions of monsters, so he decided to take the lead and give up this scourge. Yi Junlin shook his head, no need, because just before you came, the toad had died under my sword. What? The old Immortal Qingyang was shocked and did not expect this result. I want to make it clear in advance that I didn't go looking for it. It came here to cause trouble on its own. Yi Junlin said with a look of disdain, it's not as good as the bull demon before. At least it can be killed and eaten. Master is right, Li Wuji and the others agreed. The old Immortal Qingyang swallowed his saliva with a gurgling sound in his throat and said with difficulty, in this case, then I have nothing to do. I'll take my leave first. You came all the way here, why don't you stay and eat something? Yi Junlin said. No, if I stay any longer, I'm afraid I won't be able to enjoy it. The old Immortal Qingyang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and smiled. He was afraid that this group of people would change their minds at the last minute and want to eat him in the end. Or ask to remove a leg and make a roasted lamb leg or something. So, I'll slip away first as a courtesy. Chapter 379. C381 Report Dafa. 2 hours later, the first meeting of the Immortal Alliance was officially declared a successful conclusion. The meeting proposed 8 major centers and 3 major policies, requiring that the current primary task must be implemented well, that is, to rectify the chaos within the central region first, crack down on all the ancient cultivators who act recklessly, and let order return to the right track. Soon, the Immortal Alliance headed by Yi Junlin issued various codes of conduct to be followed. In an instant, it caused an uproar in the central region. The contemporary cultivators were overjoyed and applauded one by one. Because this is simply good news for them. After all, more than 90% of the regions are now deeply disturbed by ancient creatures. Local cultivation forces of all sizes, such as immortal gates and families, are suppressed to the point of being unable to breathe, let alone casual cultivators without background. When cultivation resources are severely monopolized and even the geniuses have no chance to make a breakthrough, this means that without the injection of fresh blood, the entire cultivation world will evolve into a gloomy situation. It seems to be thriving, but in fact it is heading towards another kind of desolation. Now, the Immortal Alliance has openly issued a decree, which is of great help to every contemporary cultivator. We will never forget the great kindness of Alliance Leader Yi. With the Immortal Alliance in charge, those ancient masters will definitely submit. Thank you, Alliance Leader Yi. In various dojos, many people are cheering and ecstatic, as if they saw the dawn after the dawn. The Immortal Alliance is like a rising sun, dispelling the darkness currently shrouding the central region. But, many of the ancient cultivators from different races who are still active are very resistant to the actions of the Immortal Alliance. You know, with their superior cultivation, it is almost a dimensionality reduction attack on contemporary cultivators. They enjoy this feeling of bullying because it is very fulfilling. And in order to prevent the people behind from desperately chasing them, most of the ancient cultivators will choose to occupy the local cultivation resources to form a monopoly. Then, they just sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor, and all they have to do is beware of their peers. As for the complaints from below, they turned a blind eye. Never expected it. Not long after the Immortal Alliance was established, they directly took action against this group of ancient cultivators. Not only did they require them to strictly abide by all regulations and return the seized resources to the local forces, but they were also ordered not to massacre the people, otherwise they would be sanctioned by the Alliance. Especially those ancient cultivators who like to kill were very dissatisfied with this and wanted to unite to resist. Humph, I don't believe it. Can you control such a large place as the central region? As the saying goes, the sky is high and the emperor is far away. Can a mere Immortal Alliance, which was established not long ago, be capable of controlling the entire cultivation world? Haha, I have to do what you forbid me to do even more. The main thing is rebellion. It seems that they had long expected that there would be ancient cultivators who would not obey. Teams of powerful immortal kings, under the banner of the Immortal Tao Alliance, marched to various major Tao states with great momentum. The leaders were Hong Chenny and others. This hunting operation was specifically aimed at the group of resurrectors who wantonly killed innocent people and acted recklessly. According to Yi Junline's meaning, it was to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys and set an example. For several months, there was a bloody storm in the central region. In theory, this was a confrontation between immortal kings, and it should have been a battle that was so fierce that the sky collapsed and the earth cracked, and the sun and the moon were dark. But Hong Chenny and his team were too strong. From beginning to end, they were unstoppable, like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves. Many resurrectors who wanted to resist were either killed on the spot or arrested and imprisoned. Along the way, local cultivators cheered and warmly welcomed them. And many ancient strongmen who had different intentions became honest and dutiful after witnessing the military force displayed by the Immortal Tao Alliance. There was no way, really scared, even if they have the advantage in numbers, it is useless. The strength of those who are responsible for leading the group is simply unbelievable. This is a contest with a huge difference in victory and defeat. It has to be said. The Immortal Alliance has completely made a name for itself, greatly deterring many resurrectors with ulterior motives. Fearing that they will be held accountable later, they have given up the resources they occupied and returned them to local forces of all sizes. The order of the entire central region has begun to return to good. The Immortal Alliance is in its heyday. In a giant nest, demonic winds are blowing. A group of ancient monsters who have fallen into despair gathered here to discuss countermeasures. They used to call the wind and rain outside and act tyrannically everywhere, but the Immortal Alliance took action and forced them to flee in all directions. Some of those who ran slowly died on the road. Everyone, the Immortal Alliance is bullying the demons too much. Let's just secretly form the 10,000 Demon Alliance to fight against it. A tall creature with thick golden hair, a lion head, and upright feet said with gritted teeth. The Golden Lion King is right. We used to live a happy life of doing evil and inhumanity, but the Immortal Alliance meddled in our affairs, causing us to hide everywhere. Now they have issued a wanted order. They are going to torture us to death. The big demon called the Black Pig King sat cross-legged with a fat and bloated body, like a small mountain, and said angrily. The companion next to him looked gloomy. Damn it, I just read the latest regulations of the Alliance. According to what I did before, I will be arrested and punished by heavenly thunder. Whoever surrenders is a fool. In the lair, all the demons were vomiting their bitterness and venting their dissatisfaction and anger. At this time, a big demon looked at the silent old man in green robe in the corner with goat's horns on his head. Fellow Taoist Qingyang, why didn't you say a word? Don't you have any hatred for the Immortal Alliance? Old Immortal Qingyang shook his head. I will never dare to complain to Leader Yi. Hey, even Leader Yi has called you. What do you mean, you old sheep? The Black Pig King said with an unkind expression. Old Immortal Qingyang sighed. Hey, Alliance Leader Yi's strength is unfathomable, and there are a large number of powerful human beings following him. We monsters can only protect ourselves if we choose to join. I advise you to surrender when you should, and change your ways. Become a demon again. As soon as these words came out, the whole place exploded instantly. The majestic killing intent gathered on Old Immortal Qingyang, and the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped to freezing point. But Old Immortal Qingyang didn't panic at all. The Golden Retriever Lion King stood up and looked down at the Qingyang Old Immortal. His tone was filled with a sense of oppression and he asked, do you know what you are talking about? Don't you want to live anymore? Qingyang Old Immortal said slowly, I have learned that whatever you commit is not a capital crime, but if you insist on going your own way, you will definitely die. This is your last chance to survive. Kill him. There was a big demon who couldn't contain his anger and roared. Kill him. Many big demons began to respond, and the shouts of killing resounded throughout the lair. Listen to me, the Immortal Alliance is not an organization belonging to one race, but an organization common to every race. All immortal level creatures must be under jurisdiction and cannot act arbitrarily. Please surrender yourself as soon as possible and strive for leniency. In the future, please pay attention to, why hide in Tibet and fight against the Alliance? Quote. The Old Immortal Qingyang persuaded him earnestly. Needless to say, it seems that you have surrendered to the Immortal Alliance a long time ago. The reason why you came to the appointment this time is to do ideological work for them. The golden retriever Lion King had a fierce look in his eyes, and the aura all over his body became more and more terrifying. But you are destined to fail, because we are very determined to resist. That's right. The demons nodded. Hey, you asked for this. Qingyang Old Immortal stood up slowly, with a tone of regret in his tone. Actually, before coming here, I had already reported your hiding place. Presumably the Alliance team is already on the way here. What? All the demons were shocked. Traitor, die. The golden retriever Lion King slapped his hands in anger and was about to slap him away. At this moment, a group of teams quickly poured in outside the lair. Li Wuji, who was in the lead, pointed his knife at it and yelled, "Don't move. Raise your hands to me. If anyone moves rashly, I will chop him to death." Saw this scene, the golden retriever Lion King and the others were so frightened that they raised their hands and their faces turned green. The one coming was the sword demon Li Wuji, and they didn't dare to act rashly, because this ruthless man really meant what he said. "Fellow Taoist, do you remember me? We met last time." Qingyang Laoshan quickly approached and said. Li Wuji nodded. "I know. It turns out you were the one who reported it. You are very enlightened." The old immortal Qingyang said with a smile, "I'm just trying to protect myself." Now that the Immortal Alliance is gaining momentum, this group of evil demons still want to unite to resist. Isn't this seeking death? Therefore, in order not to be dragged into the water, Qingyang Laoshan did not hesitate to use the reporting method. "Tie up these evil beasts and take them away," Li Wuji ordered. Yes, the group of people tied up the demons tightly. The golden retriever Lion King was on the point of crying but had no choice but to prepare for the upcoming trial. Roar! Suddenly, a high-pitched dragon roar suddenly sounded outside, instantly causing violent earthquakes and mountain shaking, as if to announce its appearance to the people. What's going on? Feeling the overwhelming power of the dragon, Li Wuji couldn't help but stand on end, his eyes showing surprise. Chapter 380, C382 Long Aotian's dissatisfaction. You know, after these months of fighting everywhere, his cultivation has been promoted to the realm of Immortal King. With the increasingly refined heavenly grade sword intentions and the state of opening the crazy demon bloodline, it is no exaggeration to say that even a slightly stronger Immortal Emperor will be hacked to death by him. However, after feeling this breath, it was so strong that even Li Wuji at this stage felt frightened and had a sense of déjà vu that he was about to face a great terror. What are you standing there for? Go! Li Wuji suppressed his inner uneasiness and growled. Yes. The crowd hurriedly escorted the big monsters, rushed out of the huge nest in panic, and then left the place quickly. This is a strong man from the true dragon clan. I didn't expect that kind of creature would stay in the Kunlun realm. The Qingyang Old Immortal, who heard the dragon's roar, was so scared that his scalp numbed, and the fear in his body burst out like a flood. The dragon clan is the imperial clan among the monster clans, and in a sense, it has already belonged to the category of divine beasts. This level of creatures, because of the bonus of racial talent, can exert extremely terrifying combat power. Now, a dragon clan strongman has appeared, and Qingyang Laoshan has a premonition that the other party will definitely stir up a huge storm behind. He doesn't want to run over to show his goodwill or anything. After all, the dragon clan strongmen are generally very arrogant, and have a deep sense of superiority in their bones. It's one thing to be warm and cold, but the most terrible thing is to disturb the other party, or even be killed at will. Therefore, you must stay away as much as possible. The farther away, the better. At this time, Li Wuji and his men retreated in a hurry, and no one wanted to stay for long, for fear of unnecessary changes. Thousands of miles away, a huge dark golden dragon soared into the sky, exuding a terrifying dragon power that spread in all directions. Swish! The surface of this dark golden dragon was filled with brilliant light, and then changed into a human form at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the vast sky, the man's long hair fluttered, his figure stood with his hands behind his back, two domineering black horns on his head, his eyes were as bright as a god, looking down at the common people, revealing a contemptuous attitude. His exposed chest muscles and 8 abdominal muscles were like carved marble, full of masculine beauty. Part of his skin was covered with dark golden dragon scales, and a thick dragon tail stood behind him, with an innate arrogant temperament. Haha, I finally broke the limit and cultivated the immortal wheel to the legendary 10 turns. Who else in the world can be my enemy? As he spoke, Long Aotian slowly spread his arms, his mouth curled up like a blade, and his expression was proud. Behind him, a brilliant immortal wheel was suspended, and the whole body was like a huge dark golden millstone, releasing the breath of ancient vicissitudes of time. After saying goodbye to Hong Chenny, Long Aotian found a place to practice with concentration. Unlike other revivers, restoring his cultivation was only his initial plan. Long Aoshan's focus was to completely break the extreme realm of the Immortal Emperor and practice the Immortal Wheel to the legendary 10th turn. As we all know, the Immortal Wheel is divided into 1 to 9 turns, which is an important means for the Immortal Emperor to improve his combat power. Every time the Immortal Wheel rotates, he can have the power of 100 ordinary Immortal Emperors out of thin air. By analogy, if the Immortal Wheel reaches 9 turns, he can get the power blessing of 900 ordinary Immortal Emperors. But there is another extreme realm about the Immortal Wheel, which is the legendary 10th turn. This is the realm that all generations of Immortal Emperors dream of. Just because, after the Immortal Wheel reaches the 10th turn, it is not as simple as having the power blessing of 1,000 ordinary Immortal Emperors. Instead, it has a full 100,000. Such a terrifying number has changed from quantitative change to qualitative change. This is the huge improvement brought by the 10-turn Immortal Wheel. As for the creatures who break the extreme realm of the Immortal Emperor, they will also be called the Supreme Immortal Emperor. The value of this title is very high. Because every existence that can break through the extreme realm of the Immortal Emperor is an absolute evildoer, and with the breakthrough of the subsequent realm, there will be a natural combat power bonus, which can be said to be endless benefits. This is also the biggest reason why Long Aoshan showed such confidence after breaking through the extreme realm. After all, he really has the qualifications. Although my cultivation has barely recovered to the 3rd level of the Immortal Emperor during this period, and there is still a long way to go from the heyday, but with my current strength, I am far stronger than I was back then. If my cultivation is fully restored, even if there are immortal beings at the level of the Immortal Venerable, I am fully confident that I can kill them. Long Aoshan's tone is unquestionable. In ancient times, he had the most shocking record, that is, he killed an immortal with the realm of the Immortal Emperor. This record caused a sensation in the Kunlun realm, and from then on, he created his fierce reputation, which frightened countless cultivators and made them change color when talking about it. But few people know that the strong man is a newly promoted Immortal Venerable, and his realm is not stable, and he is the weaker one among the Immortal Venerables. In that battle, Long Aoshan fought extremely hard, and was bloody and crazy. In the end, he risked being seriously injured and dying, and barely killed the Immortal Venerable. Even so, this record is very remarkable. After all, if the Immortal Emperor level figures do not appear, the Immortal Venerable is the ruler, the behind-the-scenes giant who controls the discourse power of the cultivation world. So Long Aoshan can do this, which is comparable to a miracle in the eyes of the outside world. However, now, Long Aoshan is no longer the same as before. If his cultivation is restored to the peak, he is confident that he can easily kill the Immortal Venerable of that year. He will never be so embarrassed again. HMPH, the strongest throne in Kunlun realm must belong to me, Long Aoshan, and no one can take it away. Long Aoshan's tone was firm, and his eyes flashed with invincible faith. He did not forget the promise he made secretly when he said goodbye to Hong Chenny that day. Sooner or later, he will stand at the top of this world. Chenny, when we meet again, what kind of expression will you have? I'm already looking forward to it. In his mind, recalling the unforgettable red figure, Long Aoshan's eyes softened and he said softly. Then, he adjusted his mood and began to walk around to collect the latest news during this period. Long Aoshan felt that something must have happened in the Central Region cultivation world during his days of cultivation. He wanted to know who was currently in the limelight, and that person was the opponent he was going to defeat next. After all, Long Aoshan in this life vowed to become the strongest in Kunlun realm. Never allow anyone to ride on his head. Afterwards, Long Aoshan walked around the Central Region with a strong purpose, and all kinds of latest news during this period also poured into his ears. What? The Immortal Alliance was established. The leader is a man named Yi Junlin. His identity is a top giant in ancient times, and it is very likely that he was once a hidden Immortal Emperor. After learning the most explosive news, Long Aoshan was very surprised, and his eyes showed disbelief. Is it true or not? Why did a person who was suspected to be an Immortal Emperor stay in the declining Kunlun realm instead of staying in the Immortal world? Long Aoshan expressed deep doubts about the reliability of this news. After all, the Immortal Emperor has already stood at the top of the Immortal Way, so why should he stay in the Kunlun realm to compete with them for the Immortal Fate and seek a higher realm? It's like an emperor with great power and supreme status suddenly took off his dragon robe, hid his name, and ran to the village to compete with a group of landlords and gentry. Isn't this ridiculous? Is it that the Immortal Emperor is tired of being a fairy emperor and comes here to have fun? Long Aoshan absolutely did not believe in the rumors about Yi Junlin's identity. He thought it was a rumor spread by the outside world, or it was deliberately spread by the other party in order to create a more reasonable nature for himself as the leader. Thinking of this, Long Aoshan felt that it was almost true. Yi Junlin is so arrogant that he dared to establish the Shandao alliance. Even Emperor Tian had to give up this decision. Could it be that he already thinks that he is invincible in this era? Long Aoshan's eyes flashed with brilliance, and he sneered, "It's true that when there is no tiger in the mountain, the monkey dares to be king. Have you asked me, Long Aoshan, about being the leader of the Shandao alliance?" Boom! As his words fell, a huge thunder sounded in the sky. In an instant, the wind blew violently, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The ambitious Long Aoshan looked in a certain direction in the distance and said coldly, "I want to see who this Yi Junlin is, and what virtue and ability he has to sit on the throne of the leader." After saying that, his figure disappeared. At this moment, Long Aoshan has regarded the other party as the biggest stumbling block on the road to invincibility. He wants to be the strongest in the world. This is his biggest wish when he stayed in Kunlun realm. He is absolutely unwilling to be inferior to others in this era. Absolutely not. Window. _Taboola equals window. _Taboola. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Taboola below article feed. Placement. Below article feed. Target _type. Mix.